This is our community's house. We're all guests in it here to serve our community. My name is Mike Little, Mayor of the District of North Vancouver, and so the pleasure falls to me to welcome you all here to our regular meeting of council for Monday, July 21st at 7 o'clock. We'd like to start our meeting off in a good way, and so I'll read our land acknowledgement to start us off. We respectfully acknowledge the original peoples of these lands, waters, and specifically the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam people on whose unceded ancestral lands the District of North Vancouver is located. We value the opportunity to learn, share, and serve our community on these unceded lands. Council, we have an agenda that's been circulated with the package. I'd like to make one minor amendment, which is to move the ADP recognitions to the front end of the meeting. With that, it's been seconded by Councillor Murray. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Council, we have several sets of meeting minutes that are part of the package. These are from the June 23rd special council meeting, the June 23rd regular meeting of council, the June 24th public meeting, the June 24th public meeting. There were two items on that one particular night, and the July 8th public meeting. Are there any errors or omissions from those meeting minutes as presented? Hearing none, it's been moved by Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder on the matter? Second by Councillor Back. Prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Okay. Right at the very beginning, I did do a little bit of a switcheroo in the agenda to make sure that people are here for the advisory design panel recognitions, that we start our meeting off with that before we do public input. So at this point, I'm going to go into that item, and I've got a script here somewhere for that. Wonderful. Okay, so all I have to do is introduce Tash and maybe Kevin.
Sure.
So welcome, Tash and Kevin.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Little and council and members of the public. My name is Tash Chong, and I'm the staff liaison for the advisory design panel and planner here at the district. So tonight I look forward to present the 2024 Design Excellence Awards, which recognize outstanding contributions made through development projects in the district over the past year. The recipients you'll see today were selected by the district's advisory design panel, or ADP, to highlight the people and projects that are helping shape a more vibrant and sustainable community here in the district. So before we begin with the awards presentation, I'd like to first acknowledge the ADP members who are the driving force behind today's awards. The ADP is a technical committee made up of North Shore residents who generously volunteer their time to serve, whom have expertise in architecture, landscape architecture, visual art, accessibility, engineering, development, construction, and public safety. Their primary role is to assess proposals through the lens of their disciplines and evaluate how each aligns with the district's urban design objectives, policies, and plans. In 1992, the panel introduced the Design Excellence Awards program, which is an annual initiative to recognize standout projects that demonstrate exceptional design. Each year, completed projects are reviewed and rated by the panel to determine whether or not they meet the design excellence threshold or an award of merit. At this time, I'd like to formally recognize our ADP members. So we have Stuart Rothney, Farnaz Sharifi, Manaz Mahadmalu, Emily Blair, Joshua Bernstein, John Gilmore, Kusha Karamandia, David Park, Robert Grain, Teague Martin, and Sergeant Kevin Bracewell from the RCP. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a talented and committed group of local professionals helping shape the future of the district. So on behalf of all of us, I'd like to say thank you. So moving on to the awards, on the screen, you'll see three nominees displayed, each accompanied by the names of the developer of the design and the collaborators listed below. The three nominated projects for tonight's awards are Salal Apartments, a non-market housing development proposal, the Apex Tower, which is in Seylynn Village Development, and the Maplewood Fire Search and Rescue Building. This year, each nominee showcased thoughtful planning, innovative architecture, and a deep connection to place. So with that, it's my pleasure to announce this year's Design Excellence Award winners. So the first Design Excellence Award goes to Denna Homes for Apex, which is a 32-story high-rise mixed-use development and the final phase for the Seylynn Village neighborhood or Seylynn Village development in the Lynn Creek Town Center. The ADP wishes to particularly recognize this building for its outstanding architectural expression and thoughtful integration into the surrounding community. The building showcases a sophisticated use of color and materials that create visual interest and enhance its presence on the skyline while still feeling grounded and approachable at the street level. Along Seylynn Crescent, the inclusion of townhomes also adds a welcoming human scale to the development, helping to create a strong connection between private and public space. And so with that, please join me in congratulating the team behind this project. I'd now like to invite Denna Homes to come forward and any of their consultants present to accept the Design Excellence Award. And if the mayor could also join for a photo, that would be great.
All right, if I can just get a photo of one here.
Kevin's gonna frame us up for a photo.
Tash, why don't you go stand on? Okay, there we go. Okay. Great, thank you.
All right. So our next Design Excellence Award goes to the Maplewood Fire and Rescue Center, a district-owned property and essential civic facility. The ADP specifically commends this project for its bold architectural expression, which establishes a strong civic presence while maintaining a thoughtful scale and material palette that complements the surrounding forested area. The use and color of visual design with the beautiful and unique glazing stands out with a refined rhythm across the facades, helping to elevate the building's design. The landscaping and pathway design were also praised, particularly for the successful integration of the stormwater management features. These elements not only address important sustainability goals, but also contribute to the overall experience of the site with a clean and well-organized layout. So with that, can you please join me in congratulating the team behind the Maplewood Fire and Rescue Center? I'd now like to welcome the consultants, P2 Architecture and PFS Studio, to the front to receive their Design Excellence Awards and invite any district staff to join them for a photo as well.
Yeah, the firefighters
Yeah.
especially thank you. It's a pretty nice place.
Great, thank you.
Well done.
All right, I'm now pleased to present the Award of Merit category. So Award of Merits are given to the projects that, while not meeting all the criteria for a Design Excellence Award, demonstrate notable design qualities and make a valuable contribution to the built environment, while recognizing thoughtful and impactful design that deserves acknowledgement from the ADP. So this year's Award of Merit goes to the Salal Apartments, a 6-story wood frame residential building owned and operated by Sanford Affordable Housing Society providing much needed non-market housing. In particular, the panel appreciated the building's thoughtful and creative architectural approach, especially considering the constraints typically associated with non-market housing. The use of color was especially well received, with tones that reflect the North Shore's iconic blue and white skyline, helping the building feel grounded in the context while still standing out. The landscaping and cycling infrastructure along Orwell Street were also noted for the quality and attention to detail. So please join me in congratulating the team behind the Soleil Apartments on receiving this year's Award of Merit. I'd now like to welcome Terra Housing, Office of McFarland Bagger, and HAPRA Collaborative to the front, along with any representatives from the Sanford Housing Society for a photo.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so in concluding this evening's Design Excellence Awards, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to all of you for joining us in celebrating these achievements in design. I'd also like to acknowledge the ADP for their continued dedication to recognizing projects that contribute meaningfully to the built environment and enhance the quality of life of all district residents. So thank you once again, and congratulations to this year's recipients.
And if you were here for the awards, I'm going to give you a little bit of a break here. If you don't want to stick around, we have a full evening agenda. You're absolutely welcome to stick around. But again, from us, congratulations this evening. Okay. We do have a public input period reserved at the period of 30 minutes at the front end of any regular meeting of council. Members of the public are welcome to raise issues of interest to them, with preference being given to agenda items versus non-agenda items. And so the clerk's office has already produced a list of people who had signed up in advance of the meeting. We go for a period of 30 minutes. I'll mark the time. We do have more than a full suite of speakers, and so we'll go until we run out of time this evening. But at this point, we're going to go through the order as it's presented on the slide ahead. So the first speaker I have is Alice Hambleton, joining us here in person. Welcome, and you're comfortable. You have 3 minutes to address the council meeting. Yeah, we can do that. We have an overhead camera there. It is. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Alice Hambleton. I live at 3420 Mount Seymour Parkway in the Gaspe Place neighborhood that is most affected by proposed bylaw 8736. I was born and raised on the North Shore and have lived most of my life in this neighborhood. I've been actively involved in advocating for the retention of lower elevation publicly owned natural areas in the Seymour Deep Cove for 30 years as part of the local community who rose up to preserve and protect the mountain and cove forests in the mid-1990s. I am strongly opposed to the District of North Van's stated endorsement to close and sell the public right-of-way unpaved community lane and our publicly owned natural green space lots 16 and 17 to private interest developers for $4,760,000 to become part of their proposed rezoning in the 3300 block of Mount Seymour Parkway, Gaspe Place. We are a small, thriving community with many children. I am opposed to the massive and unnecessary loss of public natural green space and removal of large trees in this proposed development, as well as in other development applications in the 3400 and 3500 blocks Mount Seymour Parkway and elsewhere in the district for the following reasons. The BC government's Bill 44 unilaterally upzoned all single-family lots in the District of North Van to allow for a dramatic increase in residential development without proper due process or consideration of long-term negative urbanization consequences. The District of North Vancouver Council has a sacred duty of care to seek open and transparent input into its decision-making while demonstrating both fiscal and moral accountability through prudent management of our shared assets for both present and future generations by upholding the vision, values, principles, and goals of our community plan. The number one goal of the District of North Vancouver's official community plan is, quote, to create a network of vibrant mixed-use centers while enhancing the character of our neighborhoods and protecting natural areas. This proposed development scheme involving the sale of our district public lots and public rights of way to private interest developers will have the opposite effect. It will permanently destroy the character and heritage of our neighborhood and will permanently destroy our natural area amenities that are held in trust for the community at large and for future generations. This short-sighted collaboration between the district and private interests is a betrayal of public trust. It should not be approved. I urge council to defeat any rezoning proposal, including this one, that seeks to sell our last few publicly owned, lower elevation, natural area, rights of way, and publicly owned natural green space buffer lots to private interest development, especially on the north side of Mount Seymour Parkway. Please give no readings to the bylaw and abandon this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Wahid Gul, joining us here in person. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the meeting.
Good evening, respected Mayor and District Office members. My name is Wahid Gul. I have lived in North Shore for 39 years. I have spent years running, walking, biking, and hiking at the trails and roads. I also project managed his. I love this place deeply, its nature, its space, and its people. I have an engineering and project management background. I built the Westview Elementary School on West 17th, here like down the road. And also I project managed the Hazel Grove Elementary School in Surrey, BC. And I project managed Brantford Elementary School in Burnaby, which was a LEED certified green building. I also project managed residential buildings like duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. So I do understand change. Only constant is change. But how this change is carried out and whether it is truly serves humanity, that is the responsibility of those in leadership and power. We are witnessing a beautiful functional ecosystem, a green space in balance being erased. In its place, we are getting shoebox-sized cookie-cutting housing that serves only one purpose: profit of developers. This is not thoughtful planning. This is not community-minded growth. This is distraction disguised in progress. A divine quality of being human is to see things truly. I repeat this. A divine quality of being human is to see things truly. And in this development, are we seeing it or are we closing our eyes? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. The next speaker I have is Christy Kramer, joining us virtually. Christy Kramer, can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes.
Welcome. We can hear you clearly. If you could just speak up a little bit louder, that would be great. But welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council meeting.
Thank you. My name is Christy Kramer. I reside at 3386 Gaspe Place, traditional and unceded land of the Tsleil-Waututh people. I remain a witness to the threat of destruction and offer testimony and plea for the preservation of life at Gaspe Place. I am in opposition to the proposed to your consideration of the development, as it is already true that it is contrary to any goal of creating truly affordable housing. I appreciate the opportunity to simply remind esteemed council of the life that actually exists now in this precious biosphere, life which, should you choose to destroy, will be gone. I say these names important to me as a celebration of existence in gratitude for so much beauty, as a promise to preserve and nurture. I will not pronounce these names as eulogy and regret. Hummingbird, salmonberry, deer, bear, crow, wild strawberry, chocolate lily, honeysuckle, lupin, baneberry, sweet pea, lily, purple martin, eagle, great blue heron, chickadee, dwarf dogwood, Canadian goldenrod, poppy, coltsfoot, horsetail, nodding onion, large-leafed avens, kinnikinick, thrift, kneeling angelica, flowering currant, daisy, whole families of cedar and pine. Sorrel, oxalis, bleeding heart, pathfinder, pearly everlasting, pink cordalis, foxglove, heather, queen's cup, columbine, bog orchard, fern, 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 sedge, clover, salmon seal, buttercup, vanilla leaf, trillium and rose, downy woodpecker, warbler, blackberry, cherry, huckleberry, black raspberry, saskatoonberry, ocean spray, Pacific rhododendron, red osier, dogwood, spirea, goldfinch, and merlin. Cherry trees, fir trees, birch, fungi, skunk, every one of you, native and necessary. Squirrel, gnawing walnuts, walnut tree and nest. Myself, I will be gone, and my family, and what of you, creek, and then sea? All of our waters run into you. Flicker and grosbeaks, juncos, pileated woodpecker, waxwing thrush, robin, sparrow, and wren, western tanager, owl, stellar jay, towhee, coyote, and frogs, blackbird, creeper, cowbird, and nuthatch, sapsucker, bush-tit, hawk, kinglet, jay, and duck, startling and raven, swallowtail, moth, and bumblebee, fungi and fig, maple, locust, the entire inherited garden, song sparrow and song, quiet shelter, shade, oxygen, and breath. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Christy Kramer. Next speaker I have is Suzette Elgar, joining us here in person. We'll put the camera up, yeah. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Suzette. I'm a resident of the Northlands Terrace Townhomes, one of the units that overlook the beautiful green space that is now being proposed for sale and redevelopment into a 46 townhome complex. This public lot is not only a vital part of our community's character, but an integral part of why we and many others choose to live here. Our existing townhomes were intentionally designed to blend with the surrounding natural environment, featuring low fences and open views that connect us with the green space. The proposed development would replace this with 3-story buildings, completely altering the landscape. We would lose our privacy, the scenery we cherish, and significant sunlight throughout the day. This change would deeply affect our family. Our teenage daughter, whose bedroom window faces the green space, will no longer feel comfortable opening her blinds. Our younger daughter, who is autistic, may no longer feel safe or at ease in our backyard, a space that currently brings her comfort and calm. The proposed development would significantly diminish our quality of life. Before purchasing our home, we spent months searching for the right neighborhood. We previously lived in a denser townhome complex in the city of North Vancouver and deliberately chose the Seymour area for its natural beauty, thoughtful townhome spacing, and peaceful setting. This developmental proposal, offering minimal setback from the public trail and limited green elements, would bring exactly the kind of dense, impersonal environment we sought to avoid. We fully understand and support the need for more affordable housing in the North Shore, but it must be done in a way that preserves the district's unique character. This proposal brings numerous drawbacks for current residents: reduced greenery and natural environment, increased traffic and congestion, further strain on limited parking, and years of disruption during construction. The impact would significantly degrade the quality of life for our entire community. I've spoken with many of our fellow residents at Northland Terrace, and all of them are strongly opposed to the sale of the 2 public green space lots beside us, as well as the natural public lane on Gaspe Place to a private developer. On behalf of our community, I respectfully ask that you give no readings to the proposed bylaw and instead abandon it altogether. I have gathered 29 signatures from my neighbors, all of whom share the same concerns and stand strong in opposition to the proposed sale and development. These signatures should be added to the 18 signatures that the council has already received, bringing the total number to 47. Please keep our green space. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Suzette Elgar. Next speaker I have is Christiane Roland. Joining us here in person. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Mayor Little and district councilors. My family and I moved to the North Shore in 1992 and have lived in 2 homes, one in Lynn Valley and one now in Mount Seymour Parkway area. We've enjoyed both locations immensely. The district has done a great job in enhancing the Lynn Valley Center, and the new North Van District Public Library main branch is outstanding. It is now a hub of activity for the community. And most recently, the Lower Mountain Highway area, the district has hit a home run with the multi-residential developments taking place there. It is another community on the rise. This area has everything a renter or a homeowner needs. Tibbs Exchange is now a beautiful, functional, and safe commuter center. What puzzles and disturbs me with all this good work is why we continue in a random fashion to propose building multi-unit homes along Mount Seymour Parkway in a quiet, established neighborhood. Traffic on Mount Seymour is too busy now. Buses are back to full capacity, and during the school year, the buses are extremely crowded for students and commuters alike. Why do we continue to sell our green space lots for development, which will only further exasperate these situations? Why do we keep adding homes to satisfy developers' profitable dreams? The public green spaces in and around Gaspe Place are a haven and an oasis for the residents and visitors alike. These areas are needed for the health of our environment, and they belong to us. We must protect these 2 green space public lots and the unpaved lane on Gaspe Place. The district council should listen to our community voices and choose from the 3 options. Option number 2, give no readings to the bylaw and abandon the bylaw. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Christiane Roland. Next speaker I have is Esther Mernfield. Joining us here in person. Welcome. When you're ready, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm Esther Mernfield. I'm the president of the North Shore Pickleball Club. Still, I'm here to speak to the Sport Court Optimization Strategy Report. This was a huge undertaking, and we're really thankful to your park staff, in particular Adam, for the initiative and all the work involved. There is much to applaud. The report concludes that district pickleball players are underserved. We agree. It recommends building more courts to meet current and future demand. We agree. But I would urge more urgency than I see here, and that would mean a commitment to evaluate all 3 identified sites, William Griffin, Inter-River, and Parkgate, as soon as possible. Otherwise, the district will remain well behind the demand for pickleball, and we'll be doing this again year after year. For starters, you know that the kids are coming because every school almost now has pickleball. The club itself has trained over 700 teachers and 5,000 kids in the last few years alone. But actually, Pickleball Canada says that the largest growth is in the 35 to 54 age group, and that's working people. And right now, there is 0 capacity for working players to play this side of Seymour in the district because of the 6 p.m. closure of the Murdo courts. There are two neighborhoods to be served, east of Seymour and west of Seymour because of geography and traffic. And as the report suggests, walk up and play isn't the priority because we know pickleball isn't suited for every neighborhood. And players generally want to go where there are several courts because that's where the other players are and the waiting time is less. And both of these neighborhoods, east and west, need more capacity today and for tomorrow. So yes, the pickleball community asks you to endorse the report's recommendation to study the building of new pickleball courts in William Griffin Park. Our wish is for 6 dedicated courts, not multi-sport, on the lacrosse box footprint with construction next year to bolster this capacity west of Seymour. Unfortunately, the William Griffin site is the only location identified for more courts west of Seymour, unless we were counting Inter River, and we all know how hard that is to get to. Speaking to east of Seymour, 6 courts at Little Kate's have been used since last year and are already super busy, and we're very thankful that they've become permanent. They will become permanent this summer. And the club has been asked and will collaborate on the design with staff to make it playable and safe as possible. Parkgate and Inter River should be evaluated seriously as soon as possible in order to add capacity within the next 5 years. Because what if one doesn't work? And when lights are added at Myrtle, this should include the pickleball courts. I hope you all have a great summer, that you enjoy the courts in our community. I know they're a valued and treasured resource that I wish for the players and people at the community present and future. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great holiday.
Next speaker I have is Duncan Brown, joining us here in person.
Your Worship, Council, sorry, I'm a little nervous. The last time I did this was 51 years ago when I appeared before Council on behalf of the Windsor Student Council advocating for Ron Andrews to be located next to the school. So I grew up in North Van. I grew up in North Van District. My grandparents were farmers at Maplewood Farm with a dairy. I now live in the city and I'm president of the Tennis Society. Tennis is a growing sport, continues to grow, and it's growing faster than the population, according to Tennis Canada, with youth leading the way. We'd like to start by saying how we really appreciate the friendly and constructive and positive relationship we have with the District Parks Department and the opportunity to participate in this project. We welcome this report. It's a break from the past where we can actually have sports court policy based on facts and analysis and provide certainty of approach. And so we're strongly in support of this report. The key conclusion and recommendations for tennis are that we have enough tennis courts and that they should be brought to a good standard. And we have to say that the work that the Parks Department has already undertaken in this respect is job one. They are actually setting a standard for other municipalities in the Lower Main now to follow, both in terms of ongoing maintenance and in terms of bringing them up to a standard because they're quite old, some of the courts. So we really appreciate that effort. Instead, they suggest focusing on improving the courts with such things as court lighting and covered courts, which can improve the playtime and the asset utilization of the existing assets. We strongly support that, especially the lighting. It really helps for people who work during the day to be able to play after hours. Covered courts, indoor courts are over capacity in the district's tennis center. We've made a formal proposal to the city to augment that by creating a seasonally covered multi-court hub at Sunrise Park in the city, which could be working with the tennis center, and hopefully that will happen. So we support the findings of this report vis-a-vis tennis. Our only concern is that it doesn't sort of provide a formal commitment to not reducing the number of courts. And we've had the assurance of the mayor in the April council meeting, and we've had the assurance of the Parks Department. And we would actually prefer an even more formal commitment to that. And we would commend you to doing that. We want to thank the council for considering this report. We want to thank the Parks Department for spearheading it and for all the work that they've done on it. And we hope that you have time to actually look at it tonight and pass it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And then we'll just quickly say to Duncan's opening comments there about Maplewood Farm and Ron Andrews in the last 2 weeks. You've recognized the 50th anniversary of both of those facilities opening. So thank you for mentioning them. The next speaker I have is Daniela Elza, joining us virtually.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Daniela Elza. I'm a Vancouver resident. I'm speaking.
Welcome.
Can you hear me okay? I'm speaking today to point 8.8 on your agenda, and I'm opposed to the application to rezone and sell public land to private interest developers, especially when there seems to be little to no public benefit. A number of years ago, we had to fight for a forest in Langley and needed saving. And the irony at the time was that the council wanted to sell the land in order to build a community and recreation center. Now, you can see the irony. People thought that that was their recreation center in the forest, and they did not need to lose that space in order to gain something that may appear or not in the future. Today, the irony of this proposal is that selling public land will get money for affordable housing. And I think that shows little understanding, as I have learned over the many years, and I just had the book arrived, wrote a whole book on that, understanding where affordability comes from in our housing. The most affordable housing is the one that is already built, but if we have to build, it has to be on public land in order to keep it more affordable. In these circumstances, the selling public land is nothing short than a crime. I'm also a little worried that this is the democratic process here where this application was returned and now it's coming back at a time when people are not paying much attention. And the damage of habitat has already been spoken. The treed spaces in our urban environments are our poetic breaks on a day of scorching asphalt and concrete, and poems capture that quite well. I've written a lot of poems dedicated to the fight that's happening on the ground, and this one is dedicated to someone who's been documenting loss of mature trees. I'll read you a few poems now for the rest of my time. Thugs in construction vests and hard hats tackle a century-old maple, break its knees, twist its limbs, throw it down to the ground. Naomi salvages a blueberry bush from a nearby house under quarantine of demolition, plants it in her backyard. We taste the raspberries she saved from another good house gone to waste. The elephant grass rescued from the grave diggers of yet another home is coming up nicely. The yard is full of hazelnut, trees, and cherry, the fig roots exposed after they dug up the oil tank. Naomi knows the demolition crew will come at her place too. She's feeding her encyclopedia to the cherry tree so it learns to defend itself in court. When the trees came down, no one knew how to interpret the light. Homeless, it bounces off glass surfaces, pierces the wandering eye. We huddle under stoic saplings, choked in urbane concrete, under a heat dome which scorches hundreds of lives. As you know, we lost 600 people in Vancouver to the heat domes. I do encourage you to give no readings to the bylaw and abandon the law. And I do encourage you to work with the community on the ground to find good solutions and good stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a while since we've had a poetry contribution. We've had 2 tonight, so that's great, fantastic. The next speaker I have is Sahar Kitto, joining us here in person. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Sure. Okay. For several weeks now, I've been really unsure about why the proposal to amend the license at 2439 Berton Place to expand their childcare facility from 8 to 20 kids was sitting in a place with me that I couldn't quite figure out. But as I sit here tonight and I listen to the district want to sell public land for somebody who wants to make money and probably build houses that don't benefit anybody, is so sad, because you're willing to do so at the expense of children's safety. If we're so desperate for childcare that we're willing to say things like, and I quote, emergency access can be determined by first responders depending on the situation, because the civic address of this location doesn't match the functional address. When we're willing to compromise the safety of 20 kids, all in the same meeting while discussing selling public land for private use is so sad. I see now why it's bothered me so much. Why are we in this situation? Why have we been placed in this situation? I'm a mother of 3, all 3 kids under the age of 8. I support my neighbors, I support childcare, and I don't understand why I have to continue to get a babysitter to come here, Mayor Little, and beg you for safety. Why is that? Councillor Back, the first time I sat here, you weren't willing to support Councillor Hansen on bike bells because you couldn't regulate them. So I ask you tonight, are you willing to support a childcare facility that can't be regulated in terms of access? Does that not value the same for you? Councillor Pope, you put a picture up that said that your daughter lives in an apartment with a really small window and it works on paper, but in reality it doesn't. Well, that's exactly the situation we're facing right now. It doesn't work. Councillor Hansen, thank you so much for returning my calls and providing me with really good advice that I could use. Councillor Murray, you had some very challenging conversations with me, and I appreciate that you respected me so much to challenge me and phone me back. Come September, I've signed up to be on the North Shore Safety Committee and on the PAC at Seymour Heights Elementary School. This isn't going to be the last time I sit here. I'll be back again. I'll have a stop sign. I'll have a vest. When I said it's about safety, I mean it. It's about safety. And also, don't sell that land. Why would you sell that land? It's crazy.
Thank you very much for your comments, Sahar Kitto. The next speaker I have is Jennifer Clay, joining us here in person. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight in my capacity as President of North Shore Heritage to speak to agenda item 8.3. We support the recommendation of staff to withhold the demolition permit for the carport and studio located at 233 Wooddale Road. This carport and studio are significant not only for their affiliation to the architect Fred Hollingsworth, but also to Selwyn Poulan, known for his significant photographic portfolio of West Coast modern architecture. He owned the original 1910 house on this property and commissioned the design of the carport and studio by his friend Fred Hollingsworth in the 60s. I know about the beauty of the studio and walkway firsthand, as in my role on the DNV Heritage Advisory Committee, I took on the task of getting photos for the Heritage Register. I met Selwyn Poulan's wife several years ago, who showed me the studio and allowed me to photograph it. I would also like to add that the backyard setting where the studio is located is part of the charm, with its Japanese influenced walkway, garden, and pond. In reality, that should also be preserved if possible. In advocating for the preservation of the buildings, I would like to underscore some points made in the well-written staff report. A demolition permit cannot be granted without an approved building permit. This policy was put in place after the demolition of another Hollingsworth house in Edgemont, after which the owner then sold the property as bare land and the house was lost forever. As well, in that report, it was noted the owner has applied for 6 units on this property, which is double the allowable units based on the RS3 zoning, which seems excessive and will preclude retention of the heritage structures. Also, the purpose of an HRA is to do a development while also retaining the heritage structures. The owner's proposal to build 6 new structures, including one which mimics the heritage structures, should not be considered for an HRA. This is not the purpose of the district's heritage policies. It's important to require the owner to stabilize both the carport and studio while further discussions take place regarding future development, so these structures remain as intact as possible. I'd also like to add that with some vision, it would be possible to create an amazing live-work haven for artists on this property. In fact, it could be possible to do this while also retaining the original 1910 house, which incidentally also has heritage value. We encourage the DNV and the owner to work hard to come to a mutually beneficial agreement. It would be a shame to lose such iconic, historically significant buildings. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your comments. Jennifer Clay. It doesn't happen frequently, but we've gone full time on the public input at this point. So I'm going to carry on with this evening's meeting. The next discussion that we have is the 6.1 and 6.2 release of closed meeting decisions. So these were added after the time the original notice went out for the meeting, and so we're putting them up on the screen now. They're available on our website, and they'll be available, but they're release of closed meeting decisions that the council has made, including appointments. Moving along with this evening's meeting. So as we go into reports from councillor staff, I'd like to propose a consent agenda. This is for items 8.4 and 8.7. These are items we've already debated. And so council, as with any consent agenda, any member of council wishing to withdraw an item from consent for discussion, that's permitted. Would anybody like to withdraw an item from that proposed consent agenda? Okay. I see. Is it seconded by Councillor Back? I'm prepared to call the question on 8.4 and 8.7 in a consent agenda. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. So if you came here for items 8.4 and 8.7, that is the business licensing framework for residential rental properties and the bylaw 8731 text amendment to CD 67, allowing a restaurant in the facility at 680 Seylynn Crescent. Those items have just passed. Okay. Next, returning to the reports for this evening's meeting. The first item up for discussion is item 8.1, business license application, denial of Nathan Morris 15347092 Corp. Sisu to operate a sauna boat business at 4565 Strathcona Road, North Vancouver. And do we have an opening comment from Chief Bylaw Officer or Mr. Milburn?
Thank you, Worship. Just pulling up the item on the agenda. Your Worship, the subject, this report and the presentation is an appeal of the denial of the business license application submitted March 4th, 2025 by the applicant, Nathan Morris, on behalf of a numbered company identified in the staff report. It's to operate a sauna pontoon boat, and staff have denied the application. The applicant has, following their statutory rights, applied for council's appeal of that decision. The reasons for staff's denial and the recommendation before you tonight are outlined in the staff report, including non-compliance with the zoning bylaw requirements, as well as a history of non-compliance to the district's bylaws and the relationship of to using property and district property in accordance with the district's bylaws and policies as outlined in the report. Staff are available to answer questions, including Ms. Carol Walker, the Chief Bylaw Officer, and myself. Happy to answer those. And the applicant may or may not indicate their intention to speak tonight. We may hear from them, but staff are available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
I believe the applicant is here. You are welcome to make a representation of up to 5 minutes on the matter. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Nathan Morris. I'm a resident of 4565 Strathcona Road. I'm just here as a resident, as a father, person in the community. It's incorrect that I'm applied to operate a pontoon boat business from my home. I don't operate a pontoon boat business from my home. So It's debatable to me as to whether I need a business license at all. I just received a call from, I'm just gonna look at my notes here. Mr. Johnny Tran saying that I would need to apply for a business license if I answer emails at my home. So I don't operate any business. I don't take any tours out of my home. I answer emails for pleasure craft, which I have available for rent, much like any rental boat. So I don't operate out of my house, but Mr. Tran from the business license department asked me to apply for working from home. It's a type of business license where you work from home, but not have any commercial activity at my home. After I applied and I was denied, Mr. Tran sort of represented my application to my landlord as really the only proof, because there's no photo proof or anything of me operating out of my home, of me operating a commercial business out of my home. So he took sort of a photo of the application that didn't explain where I said I would just answer emails at my home, and said that that would be grounds for an eviction under the Residential Tenancy Act, which it's not. So I, for me, it's more than just my livelihood, which I use to support myself, my son, my son's mother, my own mother. It's also just, the business license department coming after my home where we live, and our ability to stay in the community. They mentioned that I'm in violation of bylaw 4567 401A that states that the applicant must be in compliance with all federal, provincial, and district bylaws. He said that we have a history of non-compliance with bylaw notices. We have been issued a number of bylaw notices, none at my home, but they've all gone to the appropriate process, which is adjudication. We don't have a single adjudicator who's made a ruling on a fairly nuanced marine technicality in favor of the district. So I don't have a single, I don't know what the word would be, but a confirmation or a conviction. I have tickets, but I don't have a single conviction from the adjudicator. So we've come here, we've represented ourselves with the adjudicator. And it's very likely that the bylaw department feels that we are in non-compliance with a certain bylaw. We haven't been confirmed or disagreed with by an adjudicator. So we've come here, we've represented, we shared our evidence. This is an evidence package, not from me, but from the bylaw department, the parks department, in some of these bylaw notices. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I just come here as a citizen. This is completely not done at my home. I'm not trying to have my bylaw notices adjudicated tonight. I'm simply saying that the business license department is really having a huge effect on where I live and my livelihood. And I'd like to be able to answer emails at my home. And should I not be able to answer emails at my home, I'm okay with that too. I just don't want to be, pressured on my landlord to evict me, or to make it difficult for me to stay there. So I'm trying to be in compliance with all the bylaws as they're written. I make a huge effort where take all the recommendations of the adjudicators that we've had in adjudication. And we're not disagreeing with any bylaw and feeling that this is a situation where it shouldn't apply to me. This isn't a situation where I'm saying this is unfair or this isn't in the best community interest. We comply with all the bylaw, and the bylaw department and some of the parks department just don't want me there. And I'm open to any questions and I'll respond as candidly as I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, going back to staff, Ms. Walker, any additional comments? Ms. Walker? Yeah.
Further to add?
Okay, council, is there a motion? Councillor Hanson, do you have a motion?
I will move that the business license appeal be denied.
Thank you. Councillor Marion, seconded. Okay, Councillor Hanson, any additional comments?
Yeah, thank you very much. I support the decision to deny a business license to Mr. Morris and his number company to use either a private dock or district docks to operate a commercial venture violates district bylaws. In addition, the applicant has shown an attitude of willful non-compliance in continuing to use both a private dock and district docks for a commercial purpose. The applicant has received numerous tickets for operating without a business license. Mooring a sauna boat for commercial purposes also violates bylaws of the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. The applicant, in my view, has provided no reasons why he should be granted the business license sought. And for these reasons, I vote in favor of denying the business license.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Miri, additional comments?
Thank you, Mayor Little. The purpose of our bylaws and the purpose of our licenses is to create a level playing field. There's some contrary understanding from what you've presented and from what I understand as a member of that community as well. We have a number of businesses that work very hard, spend a significant amount of time going through red tape, because that's part of the process, unfortunately. And I know it's painful sometimes, but it is part of the process. And to allow something to continue without following those set of criterias for safety, for the safety of clients, under the bylaws and the policies that we put in place to keep people that are visiting the area safe, is very important. And so I know through our bylaws and being on this council for nearly 30 years, we go above and beyond to educate and work through this and help people get to where they want to go. And it's disappointing that this one has been so challenging for the community. And I understand it's been very challenging for you as well. But we're here to assist and give you the policies and recommendations that we need in order to be able to issue those licenses. And I do not see evidence that that has been considered on behalf of the applicant. So I will too be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Ma.
Thank you. Based on the staff report and notwithstanding your comments tonight, there's a lot of, I have a lot of concern about what's happened. I have nothing really to add other than I support the staff's decision to deny the business license application.
Thank you, Councillor. My own comments on the matter, I'm empathetic to the applicant in some ways, although I don't think that framing a business as a ask for forgiveness rather than permission kind of thing isn't without its risks. And so I think that that's been a challenge, that not all of the proper approvals have been in place in our view. The concern I have, which I will follow up with staff on, is that we're getting particularly an undue amount of pressure on the applicant because they have a residence in the District of North Vancouver. How different would it be if their home address was in Berkeley? And would they be treated differently than if it's registered as the District of North Vancouver as being the host of the business? And so I'd have a concern about that a North Vancouver-based business might have an additional hoop to jump through versus somebody who's operating within our community but doesn't have their business based in our community. I'd be concerned about that disparity. I am concerned that this is to some degree a workaround to the challenge of regulating the navigable water space for businesses. I fully agree with our staff's concern about operating commercial businesses on some of our infrastructure, and that needs to be done with the proper permissions for us. That's not necessarily the specific issue that's being talked about with the business license here today. That's tied to the home address or the office address that was in the application. But I think that's actually the elephant in the room, is whether the business can actually operate on private docks or public docks in the community. And so while I am going to uphold the staff denial, I do want to make sure that we're not putting undue pressure on our locally based businesses versus businesses in other communities. But at this time, I'll be voting in favor of withholding the application. Would any other member of council wish to speak to the matter? Prepared to call the question?
Can
All
I
those
just
in
ask one more question? Can I ask where the clients of this sauna boat, where they access the sauna boat?
Yeah, could you clarify that, Mr. Morris?
How did,
So it's actually a bareboat charter pleasure craft. So we give operational control to the renter of the boat. So I can't say for certain where they pick up their friends, but there is in the bylaw an allowance for bareboat charters. We've created this in compliance with that.
I think the question is, where does the charterer pick up the boat?
like, where do the clients go to get on the boat?
So the
Mr. Morris
charterer,
is saying that they can pick up anywhere, but the boat itself is rented from where?
depends on the person. So we do it most often, like outside of the district. Yeah, and it's to comply with the
Like
district.
where outside of the district, where do you go?
Well, we have a number of different places, but very often on the ocean and at Belcarra and outside of the district. But it's, again, it's not up to me. The boat becomes the operational control of the person who's rented it for the day. So in order to comply with bareboat charter regulations, I cannot tell them that they cannot use the public dock. I'd be completely willing, should I get a a license to use the Gallant Wharf to pick up them and to comply with any and all regulations that you would give. But it's a very difficult situation and it's nuanced, but a bareboat charter is not under my operational control, so I can't answer that for you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I see no further speakers. Prepared to call the question on the motion. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Next item up for discussion is item 8.2. This is the business license for Wise Means Childcare located at 2439 Berton Place. Okay, I know we've already had some discussion about it, but I believe Ms. Azira, you have some brief comments to introduce the item.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. The application before you this evening is to amend the business license of the existing childcare facility at 2439 Berton Place from 8 childcare spaces to 20 spaces. 2 public meetings have been held on the subject application, the first being on June 24th, 2025, and the second held on July 8th this month. Public input was received both in support and in opposition of the proposed expansion of the childcare facility. Key issues and concerns raised by those in opposition relate to increased traffic, safety, and neighborhood impacts, to which the operator has expressed commitment to addressing as part of their operations. Staff recommend approval of the business license amendment and are here to answer any questions council may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Back, I see your hand there. Do you have a motion?
Yes, Mayor Little, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Okay. All right. Seconded by Councillor Hanson. Councillor Back, your comments, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Little. First, I want to begin by acknowledging that we did hear from several neighbors who have expressed their concerns around traffic, safety, and the fit of this particular daycare as we consider expanding it. However, I think it's clear that there's an immediate need for childcare in all parts of our community. And certainly this area is no different. This operator has been operating since 2023 and have had very strong endorsements from parents, several whom we've heard from. It's described as offering a safe, nurturing, high quality level of childcare, something that's not always easy to find. So I really think that the operator is committed to a number of mitigation strategies to try and address some of the issues that we heard about from those who were speaking and writing to us in opposition. Things like staggered drop-offs, clear direction to use Berkeley Road for access, and ongoing communication with the neighbors. So at this time, while I can appreciate the concerns we heard, I think the proposal would add 12 much needed spaces in a neighborhood where it has been seen as a priority for expansion of childcare. So it's about striking a balance, but I think in this case, I'm supportive of the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Back. I have Councillors Hanson and Ma. Councillor Hanson, your comments, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to support the amendment of this business license to allow for 20 children instead of 8. Currently, the license allows for 8 children aged 0 to 36 months. The 2 new license will allow for 12 children aged 0 to 36 months, and importantly, 8 children 30 months to school age. We've held 2 public meetings on the issue of the expansion. Many speakers described the quality of the daycare at Wise Beans, and many speakers spoke of significant and growing demand for daycare in our community and the importance that Wise Beans plays in the lives of the children. Wait lists for daycare are long and spaces are limited. Meanwhile, many families are dependent on quality daycare such as Wise Bean to maintain their way of life in North Vancouver. We've heard complaints about traffic safety at this location. However, we've also heard many statements that Wise Bean will direct clients to use Berkeley and walk into Berton through the pedestrian walkway. I believe this offers a safe means of access. If safety issues arise, or any other issues, the applicant has stated that they will receive complaints in writing and address concerns. Beyond that, complaints can be directed to the district, who will ensure compliance with proper safety protocols. Weighing all of the considerations, I believe the most pressing issue is the need for additional daycare spaces. And for this reason, I'm pleased to vote in favor of this business license amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Ma, your comments, please.
Thank you. Listening during 2 public meetings on this application to amend the business license, I heard many thoughts on this matter. I don't believe that anyone would argue that there's a need for good and affordable childcare in the district. After reading, listening, and considering all the feedback, my decision is based on the following 2 key questions. First, is it appropriate and reasonable for the applicant to increase the capacity of the existing childcare facility, specifically going from 8 to 20 children? I believe it is. The home has secure outdoor space, and the staff have confirmed that the district staff has confirmed that this proposal complies with all applicable zoning requirements. The second question, is it appropriate and reasonable to have a 20-child operation at this location? Some neighbors have raised concerns about safety and traffic. We do live in a community that's facing more traffic issues due primarily to our increasing population. It's something that this council is aware of and is working on. In terms of this application, the protocol for having drop-off and pickup on Berkeley Road has been evaluated, and it's a good option to keep traffic for Wise Bean out of the cul-de-sac. Staff have also confirmed that this proposal complies with all applicable zoning and parking requirements. Like our standard practice, I would ask our staff to work with the operator and neighbors should any issues arise. In terms of this application, I support the staff's recommendation to amend the business license. Thank you.
Thank you. Just my own comments on this matter. I found some of the information that came out in the meeting a bit troubling. There seemed to be some confusion over whether this was going to mean the cancellation of the daycare versus an expansion of the daycare. I don't think cancellation was on the table at any given point. I know it came up a number of times. People have expressed concern about safe places for children to walk. I'll make this comment very generally, but it is in place on Berton Place and some of the surrounding streets. I grew up about 5 blocks away from this spot, and the whole Seymour area, local roads don't have sidewalks. And so what tends to happen is the boulevard land at the front of properties becomes the goat trail. That becomes the route that people walk to and from to get out of the car space. And what we're seeing more and more, and unfortunately it's in place in about half the homes on Berton, is people are rock armoring the front boulevard space, which is actually district property, or building, letting hedges grow to obstruct that entire boulevard space. And so unfortunately, what it does is it pushes people out onto the road. And so I would suggest to the neighbors that if you want to make the space safer for children, you can remove the hedges, you can remove the rock armoring, and you can create a space on the district land next to your properties that will be safer for children to traverse. Admittedly, it gets a little muddy on a rainy day. It's not like walking on the road, but it's also a lot safer than walking on the road. Having said that, an expansion from 8 to 20 is a privilege, and you have to demonstrate a goodwill and working relationship with your neighbors in order to be able to do that expansion. And I don't know that that has been achieved here. So I will be voting against the expansion on this childcare. I think that in future, if the relationship improves, if some of the issues are addressed amongst the neighborhood, then maybe I would be supportive, but at this time, I'm going to be voting against the expansion. Councillor Murray, your comments.
Thank you, Mayor Little. We've had many of these applications over the years, and we have, many years ago, I recall one where there was a very challenging circuitous route through the neighborhood, and we were able to manage that by being quite prescriptive in how we wanted people to travel. I read, and I didn't make the second public meeting, but I made the first public meeting. I know the area very well. I lived in Blue Ridge for a time. I've been in the community forever, and my children went to Seymour Heights Elementary. One of my closest friends lived on Bendale, just at the bottom of Berton, so I know that road well. I am concerned about the fact that we're asking people to use Berkeley, because Berkeley is the problem. It's coming from west or south or east up Berkeley. And because the daycare is on the west side of Berkeley, you either have to turn left on Carnation, turn into somebody's driveway, back out, turn around, come back down the road, do a UE, which is a sadly common practice on that road. It's quite wide. There's cars on the east side. There's spaces on the west side, but on the east side, there's a daycare as well. But what you do is you drive into the driveway off Berkeley. They've made a large enough area where you can sort of do a turnaround and then you come out. So I'm really concerned that the access into the area is the problem. It's not the daycare, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful daycare, it's a beautiful home. And I think the access off Berkeley down the lane is a good option. I just am worried about the access, and I don't see anything other than there's going to be a paper that is given to, in the handbook issued to all families, telling them to travel through this safe route. And I'm just wondering through staff, how are we going to monitor that? How are we going to make sure that that is what's going to happen? Because it's another light, it's 2 more lights that you have to go to in order to be pointed in the right direction, which is downhill when you park. And you would have to travel through a school zone. And because drop off is from 7:30 to 9:30, it is precarious at 8:30 at Seymour Heights. It's a very busy street with lots of cars coming into the area and dropping children off. So I need to have some assurance that there is going to be a required route to drop off, and that we'll be monitoring that to make sure that those U-turns don't exist. And I would say that because they are already existing, we should be monitoring that road right now for existing businesses on that street. So I'm not sure who from staff is going to answer that question.
Please.
Through your worship, the operator has already made their commitments that the childcare families would be using the safe travel route to drop off and pick up the children. They will be providing a copy of this plan as part of their application. Other measures in which we can ensure commitment from the operator and the families that they are safely traveling through this neighborhood is at time of business renewal. Council will again have the opportunity to review, identify if there have been any complaints raised by the neighborhood in terms of the travel behavior of the childcare families, and at that time able to assess whether the situation has impacts or no impacts to the neighborhood.
Okay, so can staff also clarify if we allow this within the zoning, this increase, and the traffic is a problem, what is our, we just deny the business license?
Through your worship, I think that as part of it, we understand that traffic generally within the Seymour Heights neighborhood and along Berkeley Road is impacted by a whole host of issues and not simply just the childcare. I think it would require a more fulsome review through the strategic transportation plan to identify local issues and impacts of increased use and density within the neighborhood to fully determine what measures are needed to improve local traffic in that area.
Yeah, that's not answering the question. So if you could just hold my time, please, because that wasn't the answer to my question. So if this is approved tonight and there is a challenge with the traffic accessing this property and there's complaints, if it's already been allowed, what is our recourse? Is the recourse simply a denial of the business license in the future?
Mr. Milburn.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. In response to the question, the typical approach is to responding to an enforcement matter related to a business license is first to, if we receive a complaint, to investigate the complaint to understand its validity. If we determine that it's confirmed that it's associated with the business activity, we would provide notice to the operator and a direction to correct the unsafe condition. If the operator failed to, there's further enforcement actions, which could include direct enforcement, which is setting terms and conditions on a business license, or ultimately the suspension or cancellation of a business license if they can fail to operate in a peaceful, law-abiding manner and in a safe manner. This all goes on a scale. We start with education and awareness, and it moves towards higher levels of enforcement with greater areas of breach. Thank you.
So I'll just finish my 4 minutes and I might come back after other speakers, but I think that that is the, that's the crux for me. If there is this new entrance off Berkeley, it's just accessing that entrance. And if that can't be followed, then we've got a challenge because there's already safety issues on that road. When people are driving up Berkeley to go to the east side and then they have to leave, they're doing a U-turn. And that's a significant safety issue for me that I have grave concerns about.
Can I just clarify something, Mr. Milburn, you said? So, so to be clear, if we approve going from 8 to 20 today, and there is a decision afterwards that there needs to be escalating enforcement because there's problems that don't appear to be addressed, it's the suspension of the entire business license. It doesn't mean that the business automatically reverts back to 8. Is that what you're saying?
Your Worship, I mean, that's a potential outcome.
Yeah.
If there's a significant breach or safety issue, I'm quite sure based on past performance with this operator, they would look to work with us to resolve that issue. And so we would explore issues such as reduced number of children. But of course, that would probably, if it had to go in that direction, we would look at notification period, consultation, because all the parents would have commitments to the site as well. So it would probably take some time, but we would look for immediate response to the safety issues if they were identified. And in terms of setting terms and conditions on a license, it's set out in the business license bylaw. There are certain kinds of terms and conditions around nuisance behavior, around public safety, around hours of operations, and so on. So it could be, depending upon the nature of the complaint, we could look at setting terms and conditions, but again, this would be specific to the issue that arises. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, would any other member of council like to comment on the matter? Councilor Murray, you expressed an interest to add to your comments.
I'm going to add to my comments. We cannot, the other concern that I have is the hours of operation where it's drop off between 7 and 9:30. And again, the safest route is to use Carnation, but at 8:30, it is a very, very busy, challenging road. And so, Mr. Milburn, I want to understand if there's setting of conditions, it's only after an issue is, an issue comes to pass that we can set conditions. Can we not say that morning drop off has to be by 8 o'clock and that map needs to be followed? That route needs to be followed as part of us approving this license?
Mr. Milburn.
Your worship, I believe that is within the scope of conditions council could set under the
Oh.
terms and conditions listed in the business license bylaw. The one caveat I would say to that is we would probably wish to speak to the applicant about those terms and conditions, how that could be accommodated, and then report back to council at that time, if that was council's wish.
Well, I would recommend that is what we do, is that we add a requirement to drop off prior to 8 o'clock in the morning before Seymour Heights gets busy, so we don't impact them. And that we have that map where they have to access Emerson and Carnation, which is the bus route. They have to follow the bus route in order to be pointing in the right direction. And that we monitor that for a year. That would be my really rough amendment to this motion, Madam Clerk.
I just want to be clear about an amendment to a business license. So checking in with the clerk, would the right course of action then for that individual council member to vote against the proposal or to refer this back to staff? Or I'm very nervous about amending a business license on the fly.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would recommend that council do not amend the business license on the fly. Should the desire of council be to consider amendments to the business license itself, I would recommend referral back to staff for discussions with the applicant. That may require a new public meeting just as part of the procedure to do so, but that would be, I would not recommend you amend on the fly.
Okay, so let's try to make this simple. So this is within the realm of the issues that Mr. Milburn spoke to. And I know that there is an issue in regards to the September enrollment, obviously. This is our last meeting. So Mr. Milburn, how can we address the issue of drop off by 8 a.m. and using this route to access Berkeley within this meeting? We've done it before.
I think that's just been answered by the clerk, which is to refer not within the meeting, but to refer the matter back to staff. And I'm not gonna, I think it would be out of order to amend the business license on the fly, but I'm willing to call it in order to refer the matter back to staff. And so
Can
just check
Mr.
in with
Milburn?
Mr. Milburn, that's okay, that's your preferred. I prefer you to say that into the record. Thank you very much.
That's correct, Worship.
Yeah.
Okay, well
So,
then I'll put that
Counselor-
amendment on the floor.
Okay, that's been moved. Is there a seconder for referral back to staff? Okay, so there's no seconder for referral back to staff. So then we return back to the original item. Any other members of council wishing to speak to this item the first or second time? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried with Councillor Murray and Mayor Little opposed. Okay, thank you very much. Next item up for discussion is item 8.3. Yeah, this is the, yes. Item 8.3 is 233 Wooddale Road withholding demolition permit. And we do have, I believe, a representative of the applicant joining us virtually to comment on the matter. We have Deepinder Gill joined on the meeting at this time. Deepinder Gill, I do see a virtual participant, Deepinder Gill. I need you to accept the promotion to panel. Okay, there we go. Okay, Deepinder Gill, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for this opportunity, Mayor and Council.
Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
I'm a seasoned developer and builder with over a decade of experience in Lower Mainland. This project is personal as we're relocating our family to North Van to build our home and office on a land with heritage legacy. We hired the most qualified team, a heritage consultant and an architect, both registered with the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals, and have decades of experience in conservation work all over the BC, including North Shore. But despite their expertise, their professional opinions have been consistently questioned, misinterpreted, and disregarded by staff. Our heritage consultant report concluded that the structures are of high heritage value, but very low structural integrity. She also submitted a condition assessment report with the SOS, as she thought it was necessary to highlight safety concerns to staff. It noted that reconstruction is the only viable path to conservation. Shockingly, her cover letter was not even included in the report presented to you. She also restated in an in-person meeting to the planner and her assistant that existing structures cannot be conserved and none of the materials are reusable in reconstructions. While 3 minutes won't allow me to fully expose how this report has been manipulated to support a predetermined agenda, it reduces professional reports to a single vague sentence about the studio, ignoring critical safety risk flagged by engineer, heritage consultant, and the architect, raising serious concerns about transparency, bias, and integrity of this process. Professional engineer reported the studio's support posts to be 150% overload capacity and demolition of both structures as the only reasonable course of action. He stated that given the extent of deficiencies, retrofitting would not be practical nor cost effective, and the ongoing safety risks linked with deterioration further support demolition. Now, shedding lights on the approachability of the planning department, I first contacted planning in February 2024 and began requesting an in-person meeting in August. Please note, this meeting did not happen until June of 2025, 11 months later, and only after Councillor Jim Hansen intervened. At the meeting, we found out that the planner was under the impression that the proposal was at 1.2 FAR when it was at 0.72. In the end, we were asked to resubmit a revised proposal with reduced 0.55 FAR and apply for demolition due to safety reasons suggested by Yan, the planning manager. All of this was done within a week. We left hopeful. What followed was a report which twisted facts. Actively, timelines were twisted and falsely implied that demolition permit was submitted in response to making the proposal more modest, when in fact we had already submitted a revised plan at reduced 0.55 FAR. I see my time is running out, so I request Mayor and Council to kindly read the calls to action in my speech text submitted to Council this morning. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Deepinder Gill. Do we have any additional comments from staff? I understand there's a couple-minute presentation. Yes, to Holly Adams. Ms. Adams.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. Staff have received an application for a demolition permit from the owners of 233 Wooddale Road. As mentioned, the property is listed on the district's Community Heritage Register as a Selwyn Pull-in Studio and Carport. In accordance with the district's Heritage Procedure Bylaw, when a property is listed on the Heritage Register, the chief building official is required to withhold permits or approvals where that approval would result in significant adverse impacts to its heritage value. Second, to withhold issuance of a demolition permit until a building permit is approved, and last, that the matter should be referred to council. When a property is listed on the register, that does not provide legal protection under the Local Government Act, but it does grant the district the ability to temporarily withhold issuance of any approval that would alter a property while discussions are had with the property owner, going over options for long-term protection, including incentives. Separately, the applicants do have a current preliminary planning application in to explore the possibility of a heritage revitalization agreement. That proposal is currently under review. Staff are recommending the council withhold the demo permit, which would allow time for further evaluate the heritage value of the property and options for heritage conservation under the applicant's current preliminary development application. And staff are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Councillor Murray, your hand is up. Do you have a motion?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a seconder for the staff recommendation? I'll second.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think with all of these homes, and this one, you know, there's obviously some challenges to it. But all of these homes, especially the Hollingsworths, represent a significant achievement in architecture in our community. And we've worked hard over the years to try to save as many as we can. It's a challenging uphill battle often. And these beauties, I mean, if you could see the pictures of them right now, it's just all windows. It's just an amazing, you're talking about the natural environment and you get to look through your window and see a forest. And that was so indicative of the architects of this era. Erickson obviously is one of the most prominent. So I do believe that there's an opportunity to sit down and discuss an HRA, you know, in keeping with the premise of an HRA that it is to preserve a part of this structure or structures while adding some density. It's not either or necessarily replicating. It's trying to keep the original structure in place and working towards some agreement that will benefit the protection of these incredible pieces of architecture and also provide a carrot for the owner and the applicant. So I always think that there's always a sober second thought on these ones. And I think it would be a good direction for us to go in to provide a bit more time so we can sit down with the owners and see what we can work out. Thanks, Mayor Little.
Thank you, Councillor Miriam. Similar views for me. I used to be the chair of the Heritage Commission back in the day. It was always a challenge to identify these prominent builders in our community and try to preserve good examples of their work for posterity and future. This is, it's regrettable that it's gotten into the condition that it's in, but I hope there's an opportunity to preserve it. I don't know what value there would be for me if to demo it and replace it with replicas and then do a potential HRA. I don't know what value that would have for me, but it's you know, it's just regrettable that it's gotten into this situation. I'm happy to follow up with staff about the concerns about delays in meeting availability and application, because the report says, you know, the application was only received on March 27th. And so we can check into our records to see what opportunities to meet were presented before that. But at this point, I'm inclined to support the staff recommendation, which is to deny the permit, or well, rather uphold the withholding of the demolition permit. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you to staff for your comments. Thank you to the applicant for her comments, and thank you to council and the mayor for comments to this point. I also will be supporting the withholding motion. I currently and since 2022 am the council liaison on the Heritage Advisory Committee. We did, of course, hear today from Jennifer Clay, who sits on the Heritage Advisory Committee and is also president of the North Shore Heritage Society. She spoke to the heritage value of this site. The property is, of course, on the Heritage Registry. A heritage revitalization agreement, if possible, could lead to significant heritage preservation in this case. And I do support the withholding motion to at least allow the possibility of preserving the structure through the heritage revitalization agreement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillors Ma and Forbes. Councillor Ma, your comments, please.
Thank you. There's been increase in development over the years, so where appropriate, need to find ways to preserve some of our district's heritage. I have read the submissions from the owner that were provided this morning, and we actually spoke on the phone. From my understanding, Both the carport and the studio are in very poor condition. There's lots of rot. It's also my understanding that the owner is willing to reconstruct the two structures elsewhere on the property if a rezoning and subdivision application to build 6 units is approved. And at this time, that's a big if. In the meantime, there's a risk, according to the owner, there's a risk of the carport collapsing. But I do note in the report that the chief building officer supports temporarily shoring of the carport structure. I would like staff to have more time with the owner to discuss heritage options for the site and meet as soon as possible with the applicant. And the only way to achieve that is to withhold the demolition permission at this time. So with that, I will support the staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. Councillor Forbes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Everything I was going to say has been said. In particular, I would hope that with some time and conversations and staff and to try to abide by the HRA, that we could preserve some of this and still allow for the owner to develop if that's what they want to do and get building permit. So, and I agree with you, Your Worship, about, I don't know what the value is if we have to rip the whole thing down and then do it all with new material. We've kind of lost the value. But I would look forward to some more discussion with the owner to see if we can come to some kind of an agreement that's amenable to both us and them.
Thank you, Councillor. Council, I see no further speakers on the matter. Prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries with Councillor Pope opposed. Okay. If you came for item 8.4, it was passed in consent at the beginning of the meeting, so that item has been passed. The next item up for discussion is 8.5, and I do believe I have a speaker for the project signed up to speak. Richard White. Can I do this one first, and then I'll go for a bio break? Just after 9, hopefully. We're gonna go for a bio break. Sorry, we're gonna do one. I'm on the next one. We're gonna do this one, and then we're gonna have a bio break for that. Welcome, Mr. White. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll try and get it done in 2. There also may be a presentation by staff, and I'm a bit worried I'm going to be doing a few things redundantly, but things I'm first, they can adjust their presentation. Thank you, Your Worship. Mayor Little, Council, good evening, district staff, members of the public here and online. Really appreciate you letting us introduce Seylynn Center. As you know, even tonight, Dena is an award-winning developer. That was fortuitous to see, but well worthy of them. Dena is a district-based company and has been here for more than 15 years now, and a property owner. Dr. Shapar Hosseini is here, as is Hared and Pedram, who I work closely with, Ruzbe and Ramin Rabi, also a family involved in the ownership of the property. We're all here looking forward to council's discussion. They and the consultant team assembled this evening also would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have about our proposal. We were hired in 2022 to take a fresh look at the property. An application for preceded us and was dealt with in the 2017 to 2020 period. The staff report gets into that. If you want to look at the background. Some of you weren't here then, but it's been going on for a while. Staff had done an excellent job, by the way, reviewing the current proposal that council last saw in June 2023, which is just over 2 years ago. And we received a lot of input from council at that time. We really appreciate the guidance we received. And we think we've responded to the things that council have suggested. We hope that's the case. So importantly, a majority of the proposed homes, 51% of them will be rental. That was an abiding concern of council. And 72 of those homes, which is a 20% of the 51%, are below market rental. And there's a section of the report that deals with that. 2 housing agreements are in your package that also will be there to guarantee the delivery in a district adhering way. They're in 8.5 as attachments. You may have had a chance to look at them. Council has also previously considered and supported the district lane closure and sale. That was done some time ago. $3.1 million was the agreed upon price at that time. I think those are my comments, Your Worship. These are, thanks very much for allowing me to speak. And we look forward to your ongoing support for Seylynn Centre and the Lynn Creek Town Centre, within which it is, and for your adoption of the staff recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well trained. Yeah, well done. I'll be moving the staff recommendation. Sorry, we can get sorry, Councillor, or did I see a second here? There you go. It's on the floor for you. We'll have the staff presentation.
Can you read the staff recommendation?
What's the recommendation?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight,
Recommendation is to refer it to a public hearing, which will be set at a future date, likely in September, but we'll get to that.
that's correct. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So we're introducing to you a large development proposal tonight known as the Seylynn Center proposal in the Lynn Creek Town Center. Tonight is the occasion of bylaw introduction, so I will keep my remark very brief. The subject site is a large land assembly located at a key location in the growing town center, fronting Mountain Highway, Hunter Street, Fern Street, and right across from Seylynn Park and kitty corner from the brand new community center. The proposal as shown here is a mixed-use development that includes 2 residential towers, 34 and 30 stories in height, with a large urban plaza in the center of the site. Surrounding the plaza and along Mountain Highway, there will be a range of commercial retail units, CRUs, to serve the community. And on upper floors of the West Tower, there will be office and additional employment spaces. And then on the East Tower, a 49-space childcare center. For residential units altogether, the development includes 683 new homes, including 270 market rental units and then 72 below market rental units. So the tenure between strata and market is 50-50 split, and then out of the rental housing stock proposed, 20% would be below market rental. Staff have completed our evaluation of proposal based on council adopted policy and regulatory framework, and we found the proposal generally meet council objectives and district regulations. It will help advance key goals such as building a complete community, provision of housing, and economic development. We also have engaged with advisory design panel and then conducted a fulsome public consultation process. The results of these processes are incorporated into staff assessment. Our recommendation outlined in the report is for this application to be referred to a public hearing so that mayor and council can hear from members of the community directly, and questions from mayor and council can also be heard by the community, and staff presentation and responses can be publicly shared with everybody. So this includes our staff introduction. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. As I said, I moved it, Councillor Back seconded it, and this is to grant first reading and then refer the matter to public hearing on all of these matters. I do think it's generally in line with what we've seen in the neighborhood. I understand, that the OCP amendment does permit us to have a public hearing on the matter, which I'm glad about. I think that I wish that there were more opportunities for us to directly engage the public in an ordered fashion to get their feedback on developments in our community, but that's not the environment that the province allows us to operate in most cases. But here, because there's an OCP amendment, it does allow us to do that. And so I'm supportive of that. I do generally like a lot of the things that Mr. White identified in his proposal, and think that the project warrants being moved forward for consideration at a public hearing. I will just say, you know, one of my concerns, I think that a lot of the developments that are coming forward at this time and in the last 5 or 10 years have been too heavily weighted towards small units, studios and ones. I recognize this doesn't have a lot of studios, but it does have a tremendous number of ones. And the challenge that you get into is that for a healthy development to go ahead, it generally needs to have small units, medium units, and large units generally across a project. And so when we overproduce the small units, it makes it unlikely that future projects are going to go ahead, because the small units are still waiting to be consumed in the marketplace. So Strata, as an example, we have about 1,500 units in the Lower Mainland area that are completed small units that don't currently have an owner. And that number is expected to grow by another 2,000 units by the end of the year. And so when you have all of those units waiting to be absorbed in the marketplace, it inadvertently stops the production of family size units because projects are unlikely to move ahead without that component being sellable. So I am supportive of this at this stage. I look forward to us having a broader discussion about it at public hearing. But I do appreciate the efforts that have been made to both keep the site quite open and permeable throughout it, plus also the rental component and non-market rental component. I think those are all laudable. So I look forward to this coming back to the community in the form of a public hearing. Councillor Back, I believe you were the seconder on the matter.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Little. I'm pleased to support the staff recommendation that this go to first reading. Receive first reading rather. I see it as really one of the transformative projects for the Lynn Creek Town Centre. It really brings a thoughtful mix of housing, commercial activity, childcare, public space, which is one element I really appreciate about this project, and significant financial benefits to the district. This is a comprehensive 2-tower mixed project. The West Tower featuring 338 strata units, including 7 townhouse style homes built above 12,000 square feet of retail space and nearly 17,000 square feet of employment and office uses. The East Tower, 340 secured rental units, including 270 market and 72 below market rental units for low and moderate income households, with 11 rental townhomes and 3 live-work units. So in total, it'll bring 683 new homes, which with a meaningful affordable housing component to the project. I think the childcare element is extremely important in all areas of our community, but particularly in Lynn Creek, where we have so many people moving into this area and young families. And so a childcare facility for 49 children will certainly be valuable. And again, I think some of the most exciting elements of this are the commercial and public realm. I think having a publicly accessible plaza at the corner of Hunter and Mountain Highway with a children's play area will significantly provide some enhancements to the area, as well the connections to the Green Spine, of course. The commercial space, including a space suited for a restaurant, I think will be very much appreciated by people already living in this part of the community and those who will be moving to it, as well as the space for employment uses on the second levels, I think will be well appreciated. So lots of elements that I really like about this project. I know it's been going back and forth, and since 2017, this developer has been trying to address the concerns raised by council and some of the things that we want to see here. So I think they've struck a nice balance. So I'm happy to proceed to a public hearing with this. Thank you.
Councillor, I've got Councillors Ma and Hanson. Councillor Ma, your comments?
Okay. Thank you. This proposal is one of the earlier ones that I saw on council. I'm glad to see it back, especially with all the changes that council requested at the previous workshop. This is a large site, so I'm glad to see there's a lot of elements that will add to the vibrancy of the growing Seylynn Center. I'll go through a few of them just from my perspective. I like the different tenures of housing within the 683 units. There's strata, market rental, below market rental, and even, I'm not sure why, but even 3 work-live units. Besides the condos, there's a few townhouses thrown into the mix. This is the best part. The plaza is great. I think PWR did a great job on the design. I love the open space. There are 2 large towers, but the separation between them still opens up the views to our mountains. I think it'll be a great gathering space for the entire community. I like the park space for the green spine. I like the 49 daycare spaces, which will be great for the young families. I also think the residents will enjoy the restaurants and the at-grade retail, especially since the services and offices will be on the 2nd floor. So this will all contribute to a vibrant community. Now back to the 2 towers. They're high at 34 and 30 stories. That's part of my biggest concern. But when you look around, I think the towers fit within the cluster of this growing community, so they don't really stick out. I note that although the development's within 600 meters of Phipps Exchange, there are 676 parking spaces. At the same time, there's enough storage for over 1,200 bicycles. I think those are good elements to have in this development. It is a huge development, and the district will receive close to 50 million in value from DCCs, land dedication, purchase of laneways, landscaping, and offsite works. Overall, I think this is a good project, and I would like to hear what the community has to say. So I look forward to it going to a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. Councillors Hanson and Forbes. Councillor Hanson, your comments, please.
Yeah, thank you to staff for their presentation. Thank you to the applicant. Thank you to members of council who have already spoken. I'm pleased to support this matter proceeding to public hearing. My position has been consistent that I will support rental, especially below market rental. Here, over half of the units proposed are rental, including 72 below market units. In addition, the proposed development lies within a town center and close to transit, which in my view makes it an appropriate location for densification. I note that the project will contribute to the green spine, an important amenity in this town center, and the proposal includes a childcare facility. In my view, these benefits are sufficient to justify the matter proceeding to public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm really glad that this is going to a public hearing because I want to hear what the public has to say about this development. There's a lot of things in this development that I do like, and there's a few things that I need more information on. One of the things I don't like, but I understand how it happened, is it went from a 2.93 FSR to a 4.45 FSR. And that's over the OCP FSR, recommended FSR. Also, I would like to point out that I do like that there's rental units there, but saying below market doesn't really tell people what that means. And so I would look forward to hearing more about what they mean by below market. Also, when you look at the makeup of the units, like you mentioned, Mayor, there's 18 studios, 371 one bedrooms, 316 two bedroom, and 48 three bedroom. So you're right, it's dominantly one bedroom. So, and when you add the studios to the one bedrooms, you're at almost 400. One of the questions I'll also have going forward would be that they're talking about larger CRUs are going to be 700 square feet. And that makes me kind of nervous if that's larger and it's 700 square feet. So, and it says that the smaller ones will be 540. That's a very small space. I understand that's why the floor ratio has changed as well, but I'm really interested in, I don't want to have people try to live in small enclosed boxed areas up to 2 stories. And it's just, it's mentally taxing to live like that all the time. So I'd like to find out more about the sizes. This is going to require an OCP and a rezoning to the OCP. So that's what we will be coming back for at public hearing, and we'll hear second and third. Thank you.
Very much. Next speaker I have is Councillor Pope.
Thank you very much. I will support the project and the staff recommendation. As others have said, it will be 2 towers with a lot of activation and vibrancy planned for the street level, which is great. A range of retail units along Mountain Highway, offices on the 2nd floor, and a childcare center. These are all good things. But of course, 683 new homes, half of which will be strata. More importantly, for the district, 270 rentals, which we very much need. 72 will be below market rental. I wish there was more affordability in the rentals, but I look forward to hearing what the public has to say at a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, I see no further speakers at this time. Prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. The next item is related. And so this is a proposed highway closure and dedication removal bylaw, the nature of which is the council decides on it, but it doesn't reach adoption unless the council approves the aforementioned proposal, if I have that all correct. So it is connected to it. It's necessary for the other one to proceed, but this one doesn't get executed unless the council, after that public hearing, returns for second and third reading and approves it. Do we have any comments from staff on this item on 8.6? Okay. There's any comments from council looking for a mover or seconder on the matter? Moved by Councillor Ma, second by Councillor Back. Councillor Ma, do you have any questions on the matter? Councillor Back, do you have any questions on the matter? Any other comments from council? I will just say again, this will be eligible discussion during the public hearing to talk about the impact of this. And so members of the community who are concerned about the finances behind the disposition of land and highway closures can comment on that at the public hearing time. Heard to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Council, we usually try to take a bit of a bio break after 9 o'clock. So I would recommend that we take a 3 to 5 minute break at this time, and then we'll return for the remaining, I think, 3 items still to be determined for tonight's meeting. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, that's been a liberal 5 minutes there. You never heard me say that. Yeah. Have a great evening. Okay, thank you for coming out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna reconvene the meeting. If you could take your seat, please, that'd be appreciated. Okay, I'm still missing Councillor Hanson, but I'm gonna proceed. We still have a quorum of council present. The next item up for discussion is item 8.8. If you were here for item 8.7, it was passed on consent at the front end of the meeting. And so we're moving on to item 8.8 at this time. This item is the rezoning bylaw 8736 for a 46-unit townhouse at 3374 to 3380 Seymour Parkway, two unaddressed lots fronting MSP and 3382 to 3396 Gaspe Place. Now, this particular item has two members of the public signed up to speak, one in favor, one against. So is Eric Chan joining us here at this time? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Chan. I'm with the applicant group. Thank you for your thoughtful comments that we received in the May Council meeting. We took the last 2 months working with staff on clarifying a few items and making a few adjustments to our proposal to address your comments. We thank staff for laying it out very clearly in the staff report. Our consultant team, I'm going to keep it short. Our consultant team is here to answer any specific questions about the project. We look forward to your discussion, and we are still very keen on moving this family housing project forward in the district. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. I have Hazen Colbert joining us here in person.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My apologies for having to wear sunglasses. I'm on a trial for a medication that has some unusual side effects, including sensitivity to light and numerous bio breaks. Council, and I'm speaking to this matter in a way that's a little bit different than other people have spoken to, and Mayor Little and I have discussed this. So first of all, I want to start off by saying I am not a lawyer and I cannot give legal advice, but I speak to this matter because there is some concern as the process for these types of development applications comes forward to various councils as to whether or not people are allowed to speak in favor of them or against them on the night that they're presented for adoption or rejection by a council. The City of North Vancouver has said they don't want to take the risk of being offside to Bill 44. So if you come there to speak in favor or against a development application on the night that it's on the agenda, you won't be allowed to speak to it. Tonight, there were 7 people that spoke to this item. I don't know the answer as to what is allowed and what's not allowed. Apparently, nobody actually knows. And Mr. Milburn's here. I think he probably could actually add that, yes, there is some confusion around this. And the concern, of course, is that, and the developer has the right to do this. If this item is rejected tonight, the developer has the right to go to court and say, the process was flawed. The District of North Vancouver violated Bill 44 by allowing, in all material ways, a public hearing to take place before council debated and then voted on the matter. I don't know the answer. I clearly don't know the answer, and a lot of people don't know the answer. And I'm hoping that by raising this issue tonight, not just with this council, I'm hoping that you guys also take it to the province, that we need to have some clarity on this as people in the community. We need to know what we're allowed to speak to. If it's a public hearing, is it not a public hearing? What is a public hearing? And that's what I'm saying tonight. I think this is really, really important because this is just one item. We're just one of 22 municipalities. So there's like a whole portfolio of these things taking place. Nobody knows what the law is. That's all. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And I'm hoping that you guys all and staff can go. And you've got a new minister to deal with now. Now that just throws another monkey wrench into the works. You've got a new minister. Exactly. Who might have a completely different interpretation than Minister Kaylin had.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Colbert, for raising the issue. We have chatted about it before. It is a peculiar spot. Officially, we didn't have a public hearing. There was no formal rules read in. There was no procedural fairness, so no public hearing took place. But it is a strange little space because it's not explicit in the bylaw law, Bill 44, as to what to do in that instance. So as far as we're concerned, the 30 minutes at the front end of the regular meeting of council are as open as they can be to members of the public, raising issues of concern to them, and until we're told otherwise. So at this point, I'm going to go into the staff presentation. Mr. Zank, you have some opening comments.
Great. Thank you, Worship. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and the public. My name is Kevin Zhang, and tonight I'll be presenting Rezoning Bylaw 8736, which is proposed to accommodate a 46-unit townhouse development along Mount Seymour Parkway. This presentation is about 3 to 4 minutes and it contains 10 slides. Now, for a bit of background, on May 5th, so a couple months ago, council was presented with the same proposal and a motion was passed to refer the application back to staff to address and clarify items raised at the meeting. And this presentation will cover exactly those items. And as a brief refresher, this site is located at the corner of Mount Seymour Parkway and Gaspe Place, just west of Parkgate. Zooming in, we see that the consolidation consists of 5 privately owned single-family lots, which are the ones with street numbers, 2 district-owned lots in yellow, and these are currently undeveloped but are zoned for single-family RS1 and designated for townhouses in the OCP. And lastly, a portion of a road allowance highlighted in blue. And the proposal itself contains 46 strata townhomes, and this is consistent with the OCP, for a total density of 1.1 FSR, which is slightly lower than the OCP designation of 1.2 FSR. The townhouse units are all sized for families, with the majority of them being 3 bedrooms. So it consists of 6 2-bedrooms and 40 3-bedroom townhomes, with sizes ranging from 900 to 1,700 square feet. And the application also includes the following financial contributions and in-kind contributions previously discussed. Now, moving on to the 5 key items raised by the members of council at the last meeting in May, with the first being vehicle parking. The members of council expressed concerns with unbundled parking, which has been indicated to be potentially not suitable given the limited level of transit currently available in the area. And in response, the applicants has responded by removing unbundled parking, but offsetting that TDM measure by committing to providing a 100% subsidy for a 1-month 2-zone transit pass for each residential unit if requested by the new residents. Secondly, members of council expressed concerns regarding tree loss associated with the proposed development. The applicant has clarified their approach, which includes the replacement at a ratio of 3 to 1 for 4 permit-sized trees, planting of 98 new trees, and a $50,000 contribution towards future spirit trail improvements. Staff are supportive of this approach given the health of existing trees as identified in the arborist report, and that the replanting scheme is both in compliance with the district's tree protection bylaw and compatible with existing vegetation to the north in the golf course. Third, members of council requested clarification on the accessibility features of the proposal. And here it's important to note that townhouses by their very nature are less accessible when compared with other forms of housing. And the district's accessibility policy specifically recognizes this. So given that these properties have over 23 feet of grade difference across the site, the applicant has concentrated their efforts on the most level portion of their site, which is facing Gaspe Place. And through the addition of an elevator, they were able to provide 1 basic accessible unit, 4 basic accessible lock-off suites, and now 15 units now have stair-free travel from the parquet via the elevator. And also adjacent to the elevator are 3 accessible parking spaces underground. Fourth, members of council raised concerns with potential displacement of existing tenants. Now, here it's worth mentioning that the district's tenant assistance policy makes a clear distinction between the units that were tenanted prior to a rezoning application, which is on the left. Now, these units will be eligible for the assistance package. And tenants who signed their tenancy agreement after a rezoning application has been made, who are not eligible for the assistance package, as they are fully informed of the redevelopment likelihood at the time of deciding to rent at the location. So on this site, there are 3 eligible tenants who qualify for right of first refusal to purchase a new strata unit within the development at 5% discount, 4 months of free rent, moving expenses, 3 rental unit options, and 6-month notice after demo permit issuance. Lastly, members of council want a clarification regarding the allocation of CACs. And staff can confirm that this will be at council's direction and can be directed towards affordable housing, parks and trail improvements, public art, and other public realm improvements in and around the Mount Seymour Parkway area. Oh, sorry, a little late on that. So that concludes the applicant's responses to council's input from the previous council meeting. All other aspects of the proposal remain unchanged. This also concludes my presentation. Staff and the applicant team are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Ma, I see your hand is raised. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move the staff's recommendation.
Okay.
And I also have a question, actually.
Okay, is there a seconder for the staff recommendation? Seconded by Councillor Pope. Your comments, please.
Or can I ask my question first?
As a part of your comments, yes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Zhang, you mentioned it in your presentation. What is the designation or the zoning for the 2 parcels owned by the district?
Thank you. Thank you. Through your worship, the sites, the 2 parcels are zoned RS1, single family, and designated RES4 for 1.2 FSR townhomes in the OCP.
Okay. Thank you. I have read the comments that came in to council on this project, and I previously visited the site. In looking at the proposal by the applicant and notwithstanding the community that already exists, there are benefits to the greater community. The proposed form of the townhouses fit within the surrounding neighborhood. I note that the advisory panel does support the design given that their issues have been addressed. The 46 townhouses will provide new housing options. The district has approved purpose-built rentals in the past, but renting is not for everyone. This project will provide an option for young families to buy into 2 to 3 bedroom units and to start building some equity. 15% of the units have accessibility features, so I think that bodes well for older demographic purchasing these places. Even though these are strata units, there are 10 lock-off units that could potentially be rented out in the secondary market. And there's also a reasonable ratio for parking space, I think 70 for 46 units, and I'm glad to hear that they will now be bundled. The 98 new trees that will be replanted to address the loss of trees for this project, it's not meant to replace what was there, but it is meant to compensate their displacement. You know, I heard earlier that this area is, you know, visited by the locals there. So I recognize it's a special place, but I think there's going to be greater opportunity here for providing housing for families. And I note also that Trillium has engaged in a tenant relocation assistance program. So they'll help the renters in the 6 occupied units. In terms of the 2 district-owned lots that the developer requires for this project, I would generally not support selling district land, but there are exceptions that I mentioned before. It's 1, when the district cannot use it for other purposes, and 2, when the district can strategically use the proceeds from the sale to acquire other lots. In this case, I think it was mentioned earlier at the council meeting, the funds will be put towards supportive housing in the Mount Seymour Park area. So overall, I support the staff recommendation to give the first 3 readings of this new bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pope.
Thank you very much. Generally, I would be against selling district lands, and I understand some of the concerns from the community. In fact, I voted against this development in the first round because there was no provision for affordable housing or any level of affordability in the proposal. And although the community needs missing middle housing like this, there just wasn't enough benefit to the community, to me. Well, that's changed. There we are right now. We released the closed meeting decisions earlier tonight. And in that decision clarifies that council directs staff to return options for acquiring lands east of Seymour River for a future affordable housing project using the proceeds of the sale of district-owned lands. So with these funds, we could potentially buy 2 houses to immediately house seniors who are facing homelessness. I recently met 2 seniors who could live there right now. Dana Mathers, who is 70 years old and who went to the same high school as me, had a car repair shop on Pemberton for 40 years, and his brother, Jeff. They are now living in their car down on Lloyd Street with the other RV residents. They are longtime North Shore residents who, because of a series of missteps and unfortunate events, are now living in their car in a sedan, not even an RV. They don't do drugs, so they won't go to a shelter, and they have got to get off the street as soon as possible. We know there are many others. So with the Gaspe development, we can use those funds to purchase deeply affordable housing, a fully functional, ready to move in house that a nonprofit could operate to provide transitional housing to meet the needs of people in our community. If the funds are specifically targeted to house purchases, the impact will be immediate, and we won't have to wait for years for a new social housing project to be built. That could possibly also include young people who are unable to live at home. Right now, there is only 1 youth safe house run by Hollyburn Community Services, and it is often full. So kids from this community, our kids who have grown up here, gone to school here, are then forced to go downtown. And I can tell you from my own family's experience, that can lead to terrible consequences. So a vote for using that district land is a vote for affordable housing. It is a vote for helping this community and some of our most vulnerable people. To ensure this happens quickly and not just sit in a district land fund indefinitely, I would like to provide more specific direction. And I, at this point, want to propose an amendment that adds to the recommendation, which would add, and council further directs funds from the sale to only be used for deeply affordable or social housing in the area in partnership with a nonprofit organization and may include the purchase of existing homes.
I will, so that's been moved as an amendment. I'll second that amendment. So discussion on the amendment. Discussion on the amendment?
I have nothing to add
yeah,
to what I...
so just for my comments on the amendment, I'll just say that fits with my intent here. I have said for 2 decades in politics and in the community that if District of North Vancouver land is included in sales, I'm going to, wherever possible, go after deep dive social and affordable housing. I don't, it's rare for me to support dispensing public land, but if we are, then I think that needs to be the goal and target of it. And so this particular amendment happens to work towards that objective. So I'll be supportive of the amendment. So discussion on the amendment. on the amendment, and then we'll go back to the regular
Yeah.
after that. Councillor Murray, followed by Councillor Hanson. Go
Well,
ahead.
it sounds like such a great idea, except this land on the Parkway, those lots, because the district sold lots in the 1950s, the 1940s, the 1930s as tax sale land, we're basically giving away land that cost us nothing to acquire in order to buy land that will cost, what's a lot in the district right now? $2 million. That's a lot in the district. So you're basically selling land to turn around and buy land to create affordable housing. And I've never understood that. That makes absolutely zero sense. In the days of, my grandfather bought 3 acres on Panorama Drive in 1935, tax sale land from the District of North Vancouver for $87. Yeah, I know, that's crazy, isn't it? So this is the same kind of thing, except it's not 3 acres, it's 2 lots. So I don't understand why we would be selling land to buy land. That makes absolutely no sense in today's market. It is backwards. So we can always direct any funds that we get from developers without selling land to go into affordable housing, social housing. In the Seymour, east of the Seymour River, we have the vast majority of social housing on the North Shore. On the North Shore. The Mount Seymour Lions created a housing society in the 1980s. My father sat on it for 25 years. He was one of the founders of the society. And they built a significant amount of affordable social housing, Lions social housing in the Seymour in partnership with the provincial government and the municipality, where we gave land and they brought the parties together, the province gave money, and we built social housing, and it's still there today. It is truly the only affordable housing east of the Seymour. So the district and the Seymour community has built more than any other part of the North Shore within blocks, Deep Cove, Apex. So I'm not sure if we actually need more there. We probably need more on the western side of the district where there's very little. We do receive funds from developers, certainly on the rights of ways that are sold. We can direct that money to be helping to fund and buying property in areas where we don't have any land. But I have to really question the logic of selling land in order to buy more of it, because that just makes no sense. So I won't be supporting the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you. I won't be supporting the underlying motion, and because of that, I will not be supporting the amendment. I wish it to be clear that's why I'm not supporting the amendment.
Okay. See no further speakers on the amendment. Councillor Forbes, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm in the same position as Councillor Hanson. I don't support the original motion, so I can't support the amendment. And I would like to say that there will come a time where those 2 lots will be used for something. They will be developed. I don't think this particular project, which scoops those 2 lands away from the district, is the project that I would vote in. Well, I won't vote in favor of it. Generally speaking, I do have a very high bar anyway when we come to our public lands to sell them, because the numbers don't work. They just don't work. To hand these lands over that don't cost us anything to a developer who's going to make money off of it, which is his right, and we're in a capital society. But I just think that public lands are something very special, and the right project will come along for those 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ma. On the amendment, please.
On the amendment, are you able to post it?
Thank you, through your worship. I don't have the language, so I'm not able to display it, but if Councillor Pope has it written and she wants to email it to me, I can
Okay.
put it on the screen.
Maybe some comments on the amendment. Like I said, generally speaking, I would not want to dispose of district land. But in this case, we got two bare land parcels and the plan is to buy two properties with homes on there. I think there's an increase in value that not everyone's seeing. So that is a difference. But I would like to see the motion first. My concern is the motion is sounded very specific, and I don't want to tie the hands of our good staff in the real estate department to do the right deal. That's my only concern. I'm supportive of the concept. I just want to make sure that our staff have the flexibility. Well, I'm trying to understand what's the motion first. That's that.
We're just gonna
Yeah.
add it, but we can pause your time until the motion's up and then you can comment. So just to be clear, before I go back to council comments, Mr. Milburn, in your view, is this language enable a likely partnership within the community?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I believe the main motion is that staff return options. And so I think we have enough direction in terms of exploring options within the specifics council's provided. I also note there's a may include, so it gives us some options to look at alternatives. Of course, the idea would be to maximize the utility of affordability in the community. So we understand that general direction and we'd be looking at exploring with partnerships. We always do that. We look at partnerships. We don't deliver social housing ourselves. We work with partners on the delivery, typically through a nonprofit housing provider. So that's all consistent generally with how we approach acquiring and developing lands. And we'd return options to council if this rezoning was approved and the purchase and sale agreement was completed, and if these motions are passed.
Thank you. Councillor Ma, returning the floor to you.
Yeah, I see the point where it says may, but I also see the part that says can only be used. And deeply affordable is what?
Your Worship, in our experience, deeply affordable is typically for low-income individuals. We would, it's a general term, so we'd look to council's past direction, council's current policy direction on delivering housing that is social. That essentially means it's delivered by government, and deeply affordable is typically in the low-income range. And that often occurs with, of course, many different cohorts in the community, seniors, youth, people in care. And that is a common arrangement in a community care facility, which is often delivered in a single family home. So it's within the range, and we'd give further advice to council and on the specifics when we return this item, if it is approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to trust staff will come back with options and work within the definitions. This whole concept, there seems to be a lot of conditions because, we talk about nonprofit. Well, we can also partner with the government per se, but they'll probably find a housing provider. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next speaker I have on the amendment is Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mayor Little. I was supportive of the main motion here, and I am again tonight. In terms of the amendment, I am supportive of it. I think I agree with the comments around the table. We have to be, making sure that anytime we're selling district-owned property, that we are getting the maximum benefit for the people who need it the most. In this case, I'm not as confident from some of my colleagues that we're going to be able to do anything with the 2 single-family lots, recognizing that they are valuable to the people that live in this area. But I think there is a greater good here. And I certainly think that with this amendment, we will be able to find a nonprofit organization. There's lots of social service agencies here on the North Shore, I think, that would be able to work with us to really deliver some real deeply affordable social housing. And I think having it in the area here makes sense. So I appreciate the amendment, and I am supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Back. Councillor Forbes.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to point out that it's been brought up tonight, the urgency of trying to get people, specifically, it was talked about elderly people, into housing. And I'd like to point out, as every one of us sitting around this table knows, that when you start going for social or supportive housing, it requires the funding, which is usually the provincial government, and it requires a nonprofit operator to run it. So to get those 2 other partners on side with us, we run into it taking 4, 5, maybe even 6 years before you get that housing. So that's why I don't agree with the amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Forbes. And Councillor Pope, you made the motion, but I don't think you spoke to it. So sorry, we're back onto the regular list. Just want to be sure. Okay, so she did not speak to the amendment. She introduced the amendment and didn't speak to it. So Councillor Pope, you do have an opportunity to speak to it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I would just like to address some of these comments that have been made. Actually, in researching, well, first of all, I'll start with the amendment itself. I feel that it just adds to it. It doesn't limit planning in any way on its options. It just makes it more specific. I'm concerned that in the past, when we've directed things to the Affordable Housing Fund, in my time here, have never seen the result of that. And I'm not sure where, in fact, I'm not sure where all the money has gone in the past to the Affordable Housing Fund. That is why I wanted it to be specific enough that it could really have an impact and an immediate impact. Second, I carefully researched with several nonprofit organizations, including Hollyburn Community Services and the YWCA, both of whom I know, as everyone knows, have worked on affordable housing projects and provided supportive housing and all kinds of different ways. Hollyburn has also done several houses that they have purchased and provided. And the beauty of buying houses is that they're up and running. And I've been assured by both organizations that that is a method that could actually be very simple. It wouldn't take 4 years. It wouldn't take 10 years. It could happen this year. It could be up and running and providing our most vulnerable people with the care and housing that they need within months. If we do it that way, if we just allocated it to an affordable housing fund and it goes into a big project down the road that the developer has promised to include affordable housing, that could take 10 years or longer, as we've often seen in the district. So those are my reasons for including the amendment.
Thank you very much. I'm prepared to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? It passes with Councillors Forbes, Murray, and Hanson opposed. Okay, back on the original motion. Oh, sorry, back on the now amended motion. Are there any further speakers on the amended motion? Councillor Hanson, your comments?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. When this matter initially came before council, I expressed my view that I would not support this district-owned green space being used for residential development. This remains my view. This proposal involves using 2 district-owned lots, currently green space, for townhouse development. In years to come, as our community faces ever-increasing population growth, I believe we will be praised if we preserve district-owned green spaces for all times and for all peoples. Once destroyed, green space can never be recovered. Green space provides a habitat for plants and animals, birds and insects. Green space provides environmental benefits, and green space makes our neighborhoods livable. In this case, I do not believe that any affordability component of this proposal can justify the destruction of this district-owned green space. To build townhouses on publicly owned green space is not something I will be supporting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Muir, your comments.
Thank you, Mayor Little. I've never in 30 years agreed to sell public land, and I'm not going to start now. Councillor Ma talks about what the zoning is on these 2 lots, and we have lots of these lots in the district. They are the little neighborhood parks that kids play in. It's where you take your dog. It's where you meet your neighbors. We had a lot down the street from where I lived, and it was like it was a lot that backed onto a forest, and the kids, we just spent the whole summer in there. So these lots, and previous councils actually protected them. When we were looking at, there was a similar motion in regards to selling some of our lots. They're heavily treed, and some of our previous councillors were very adamant about protecting the treed nature of these lots because they provide an exceptional benefit to the community. It's why people come to the North Shore. It's why people come to the district, and certainly come to the Seymour. And I think you heard a lot of those presentations from people this evening. So green space is kind of under attack. And our canopy is shrinking, our urban canopy. We're adding more people to our communities, and they need to get outside. We saw that during COVID. Bonnie Henry told everybody to go outside, and they did. And wherever they came from, they didn't go back in. They stayed outside because it's a good place to be. This is an important buffer to the development to the west. And I think it's important also to recognize the significant amount of green space that's coming down in the Seymour. You may not realize the significant amount of clear cuts that are going on the Tsleil-Waututh lands for the developments that they're putting in. And they have, when they first started developing, they actually were providing affordable housing because the land was leased. The market's changed. It's not as affordable as it once was, but there's still opportunities. And I know they're building a lot of housing for their members down there, but a significant amount of forest is being taken out in order to accommodate that development. And although we are 2 separate governments, we are all neighbors, we all live in the same place, and we're all part of the same community. And so what impacts one impacts the other. On Apex, there's also a road. There was a single road out on Dollarton for many, many years, and now the Tsleil-Waututh has pushed the road through, and there will be a second entrance to Raven Woods, and it will come out on Apex, and it will enter out onto Mount Seymour Parkway. We don't have those numbers right now as to what kind of impact we'll have on the Parkway, but it could be it will be a growing impact on the Parkway. We're adding 46 units on 7 lots, and I think it's 7, right? 7 lots. And we're adding 71 parking spots. The overflow for parking right now is Apex. That's where the neighboring development parks when they can't park on their own property. They're parking across the street. This development, you will have to exit this development, drive down to Apex and do a U-turn, or I'll take my second 2 minutes. Do your turn or turn around at Apex to get to Parkgate or get down to the Cove. I find that challenging. You know, we've had a number of challenges with the access, the egress and the ingress of these townhouses based on the extension of a lane. And this lane at this time will not be pushed through because the remaining properties have not been purchased. So we will rely on Mount Seymour Parkway and really at an uncontrolled intersection because of the median. You know, I think we have to start balancing what has changed since the Seymour local map plan was created and since this development was, or these developments on the Parkway or this vision for this area was implemented into the OCP. Lots has changed. We heard tonight, Mayor Little, I think, commented on the number of 1-bedrooms. We're seeing thousands of empty units. You know, we've got the team here. This may go ahead as soon as this, if this is passed and you get your development permits, your building permits, this may go ahead. But like many developments right now, it might sit. We have approved 5,500 units since the OCP was adopted in 2010. Or actually, sorry, I'm going to correct myself. We have approved 7,500 units since 2010, and we have occupancy on 5,300. So over 2,000 units are sitting, and the zoning's there, but the units have not been built. It's all economics development, and so there's really no guarantee. I think this project could go ahead without these 2 pieces of public land. Obviously, it would have to be greatly changed, but I don't think that the district should be selling land in the Seymour simply to turn around and buy more. And for those reasons, I can't support this application.
Okay, thank you very much. I see no further speakers at this time. Prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried with Councillors Forbes, Murray, and Hanson opposed. Okay, thank you, Council. The next item up for discussion is related. Let's just be clear on that. And this is the proposed partial highway closure and dedication removal for 3300 block Mount Seymour Parkway and Gaspe Place highway closure. Okay, is there any staff comment on the matter?
Staff are available to answer questions, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion, Council? Moved by Councillor Back. That's the staff recommendation. Yes. Is there a seconder on the matter? Seconded by Councillor Pope. Any discussion on the matter? Prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is approved with Councillors Forbes, Murray, and Hanson opposed. Thank you, Council. Yes, there are. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I have a speaker for 810. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're moving on with item 810. This is the response to parked large and recreational vehicles in the district. I do have a member of the public who signed up to speak. This is Kathy Still. So we'll have Kathy Still, welcome. Come on up to the table to provide your comments. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will not take 3 minutes. I just want to acknowledge the appreciation of those folks who use the tennis center for the work that's been done on the parking around the tennis center on Lloyd Avenue. And in particular, I'd like to thank Councillor Ma for his help in this. It's a very difficult, complicated situation, and I understand it's difficult to relocate people, but we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments, Kathy Still. Okay, I'm going to hit staff for your comments. Ms. Atfa, do you have some opening comments on the matter?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, Your Worship. Good late evening, everyone, 10 p.m. Thank you for the opportunity to give some overview comments. This report follows on the discussion Council had at the June 9th meeting, so just a month and a half ago. Council at that time acknowledged that RVs and large vehicles parked on the street is a growing community concern with many complexities, for example, feelings of safety for some, demand for street space, and the need for housing. Council gave direction to staff to pursue all the approaches that were identified in that June 9th report, and also the importance of continuing to act with compassion for people who may be living in vehicles. So staff would now like to describe some of the immediate steps taken since June 9th and receive council direction in 2 areas. That is around more parking restrictions, as well as a proposed framework for enforcement, communications, and advocacy. And with your permission, Your Worship, Tanya Oswald will give a presentation that's just about 5 minutes long.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm not sure if it needs to be.
We're just going to switch that up there for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Tina, for the introduction. And good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. As Tina mentioned, my name is Tanya Oswald from the district's community planning team, and I'll be providing tonight's brief presentation on this topic. Previously, a report to Council on June 9th outlined both the current context and 4 approach options to manage parked large and recreational vehicles in the district. Direction was provided to staff clearly to address abandoned and stored vehicles on Lloyd Avenue, report back on parking bans in the area with options for action, and return with implementation detail aligned with all management approach options endorsed by Council on June 9th. Responding to Council's direction, enforcement officers revisited Lloyd Avenue over the past few weeks, facilitating the removal of 3 vehicles confirmed as long-term storage. This brings the total to 18 vehicles this year that have been enforced in the Lower McKay Creek area through use of ticketing or towing. In terms of parking, both existing and proposed parking restrictions are in attachment 1 of tonight's agenda package. Council, you may recall the recent time-limited parking restrictions implemented this past April, which are shown here in orange. This was a relatively small intervention, resulting in increased vehicle turnover and positive feedback from impacted businesses and amenities. Building on this work and in response to ongoing and increasing business and resident requests to manage on-street parking in the area, staff are seeking direction to apply similar timed parking restriction measures along portions of West 3rd Street, Lloyd Avenue, and West 1st Street, which are shown here now in blue. Next, a draft implementation strategy update. It's understood that management of on-street parking is a priority item for Council, and following the June 9th report, staff came together cross-departmentally to land on these substantive principal directions, which integrate all approach options previously endorsed by Council. Following Council's feedback tonight, staff would work on adding the final touches with the aim of reporting back in the fall. I'll now just briefly walk through each component of this 4-pronged approach. On review of the district street and traffic and parks regulation bylaws, staff found that parking restrictions for these vehicles, including time-limited parking and vehicle use restrictions, are adequately covered. As such, the first prong of the strategy is aimed at achieving more efficient parking usage and minimizing disruptions we see occurring at a more local scale, similarly to how this is being approached in the Lower McKay Creek area. Next, recognizing the need for compassion while also upholding community standards of safety and well-being, staff are recommending program development to help address parking conflicts more proactively. This would involve refinement of our enforcement procedure where, for example, an initial enforcement response would allow additional time to help build people's awareness and understandings of both the bylaw and available social supports prior to ticketing and towing. Conversely, in instances where individuals are returning contraveners or have repeatedly not complied with bylaws and regulations, the enforcement process would be more streamlined. Thirdly, we have communications, which would support the rollout of the program just described, involving immediate and ongoing initiatives for key audiences to address areas such as the district's parking and enforcement standard, community reporting and feedback channels, and informational resources on social supports and advocacy efforts. This ties into the fourth and final implementation prong, advocacy for our needs on the North Shore. We know that parking restriction and enforcement action may disproportionately impact users that are at risk or experiencing homelessness. In effect, the response to parking concerns overlaps with efforts to address chronic homelessness, a complex issue rooted often in challenges with mental health and substance use. Addressing it is a shared responsibility requiring coordination and partnership across all levels of government, community service providers, and others. Staff would work to identify opportunities for demonstrating leadership and advocacy at the local level and across the North Shore, and by advocating to the province for a sub-regional coordinator to support the North Shore in addressing ongoing and emerging homelessness issues. At this time, council may direct staff to implement the parking restrictions in Lower McKay Creek area and the draft implementation strategy to manage large and recreational vehicle parking in the district. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff are available to answer questions.
Great, thank you so much for your presentation. Council, I see Councillor Ma, do you have a recommendation? A motion?
I move the staff's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Second by Councillor Murray. Councillor Ma, your comments.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. We probably all realize that this is more than just a parking bylaw issue. For various and personal reasons, there are more and more people living in their cars and RVs on municipal streets and, you know, in the case of Abbotsford, highway rest stops. It's a complex issue that cannot be addressed by just municipalities. These issues are found in many cities across BC and Canada. We need senior levels of government to take the lead. I would say that the district in the past has attempted a compassionate approach, but with upwards of 75 such vehicles in a recent count, I think we've reached a tipping point. There are concerns about parking, access to public facilities, and adverse impacts on nearby businesses and residential areas. This response by council is to provide our frontline staff with more tools in trying to better manage the situation and its impacts. I appreciate the four-pronged approach. At the same time, I'm under no illusions that this will be solved overnight, but we will all work with nonprofit agencies and provincial governments to ensure that people in the RVs are offered the social services and supports they need, and you know that can include social housing. So thank you for this report.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murray is the seconder. Do you have additional comments?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm supportive of how we're approaching it, and you know, but I'm not blind to the fact that this is going to move somewhere else, and because that's what happens. The city implemented regulations on the other side of the creek, and they moved over to our side. And so this is just going to move the problem somewhere else. You know, all governments are responsible for what's going on right now in regards to homelessness. and people living rough. There's always been people living rough. You know, in the Cove, there was always the odd character living up in the forest somewhere. And we've had people over the decades living down by Capilano Mall, you know, and that's just a part of a you know, a community. There's always some people that find themselves in these situations, but it's growing, in my opinion, because we are displacing larger numbers of people every year. And most of that is because we are tearing down affordable housing. And they cannot afford the gap between where they've been renting and where these new housing developments are coming in. And it's well, right now, the market's changing. So some is going to be stalled. There's not this sort of fever-ish approach to buying older affordable housing, which is truly the only affordable housing we have. This council has voted in favor of ripping down one of the last affordable units, developments in Maplewood to make way for several hundred new condos that most of the people in those units today will not ever step foot in because it's going to take too long to build it and they won't be able to afford it. They'll have put themselves in another community and they won't come back. And you know, I think we can say that that's happening everywhere across this country and everywhere in North America. This people living on the street is growing. And I, quite frankly, don't think we have the resources to look after it because it's got ahead of us and we can't pull back anymore. And that's sad because we've gone from a community of, this community was built on blue collar workers and we had a very eclectic array of different financial positions across the North Shore. I always say you lived in West Van if you did good in the market. You rented your first apartment in the city of North Vancouver, and the district was a bit of both. But now gentrification has come, and with that, the gap between rich and poor widens. And it's a societal issue. It's an issue that the government feels like if we just build more housing, it'll fix it. But you know, that's what we've been doing steadily for the last 15 years, and it's only made it worse. So I just think that I hope we have a plan. We've got a plan here. And I guess these policies will also apply to other areas as this issue grows and moves. It will be interesting to see how we are going to prioritize our resources to be able to fund the enforcement and hopefully find those different organizations and those different levels of government coming to the table. I'll take my other 2 minutes. And to actually truly deal with this problem. We're building supportive housing, but we know that many of the people that are living in campers and trailers don't want to live in supportive housing because we don't want to put restrictions on substance use. And so they don't want to go in there. They'd much rather live in a camper and they park in a neighborhood. They need to be able to go to the doctor and, you know, use the services. And then there's a growing group of people that have means that are choosing to live in vehicles. We know of websites, we've known this for many years, websites that are pointing people that are coming to visit Vancouver, oh, you can go park down in this area and, you know, see the sights and go to, and help my neighbor here, stop choking. So, you know, this is, as Councillor Ma lays out, a very complex issue. I'm going to try to remain optimistic, but I'm bitterly saddened when I drive down through the downtown east side. That I've done that several times in the last couple of weeks, going downtown, and my Uber driver drives me through the downtown east side, and it is stunning what we are seeing. Bill Bell, a former councillor in the city of North Vancouver, took a picture of an alley the other day and posted it on Facebook. And it was just an empty alleyway. And I commented that he said, you know, it's sort of this serene place, this alleyway with graffiti on the walls. And I said, my dad used to use those alleys as places to park because he was cheap and didn't want to pay in the Woodward's food floor parking lot. And we would walk through on the way to the ANN, the Army and Navy, and there would be some guy living rough that would come up to my dad and he'd pull out the change in his pockets and he'd look for the quarters in his hands and he'd hand as much as he had over to the guy. Now they are places that, I mean, it's like your worst nightmare. And it's just, the block is getting longer. And I don't know how I don't know how we're gonna stop it. It's just overwhelming. So parking, yes, we're gonna figure that out and we're gonna watch the problem move and we're gonna figure it out again and it's just gonna keep going. But we're gonna give some relief to our residents and our visitors and our businesses. And we're gonna hopefully help those that are in this situation.
Thank you. Council, I see no further speakers on the matter. Okay, I've got Councillors Hanson, Pope, and Forbes. Councillor Hanson.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll keep my comments brief, given the time of day and given that so much has already been said. I do support these specific parking restrictions. At the same time, I think we all know, and I know that this will not solve any kind of problem. It will move the problem and the problem will continue. I reiterate my observation that we need to find a place for these persons. And if that means that a place for them to live in their cars and their vehicles, then that's what it's going to have to be, a safe, regulated site on the North Shore where they can place these cars. And I also reiterate my comments that have been previously made that we need transitional housing. We need all sorts of investment in housing for this cohort, and much of that investment is beyond the capacity of this local government and sits in the responsibility of the provincial government. That said, and for the purposes of today's discussions, I do understand and support the goal of this staff recommendation around parking, and I will support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Pope. Microphone.
Thank you for the report. I support some measures being taken as long as parking enforcement is specifically targeted at abandoned or non-licensed vehicles who are using Light Street as storage for their RVs, or importantly, people who are not genuinely homeless and actually could live elsewhere. But I'm very worried about others down there who have nowhere else to go. They'll just start parking their vehicles in other areas of the district. As I mentioned in the last motion, I know of 2 senior men currently living in their sedan on Lloyd Street. And so forcing them to move along is really not a solution. This report notes that parking enforcement actions, quote, overlap with efforts to address chronic homelessness. But a year ago, this council unanimously supported my motion for the district to identify sites where transitional housing could be located. And yet we still have nothing, no plan, no sites, nothing. This council has given lip service to wanting to help people in need, but in reality, we have not made it happen. So I'm proposing an amendment to 8.10, which adds, which I can send to the clerk as well. Further, as parking enforcement actions may disproportionately impact users who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness, staff be directed to collaborate with the federal and provincial housing ministries to secure funding for transitional housing and people living in vehicles who have nowhere else to go, and identify DNV lands not previously considered.
Okay, so do we have a seconder for that amendment? Seconded by Councillor Hanson. So we're going to work to get the amendment up in print, but comments on the amendment, please. Okay, on the amendment.
Like big amendments versus like, emotions, like,
They're in order. That's all I can say about it is, so Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add, except it's consistent with the comments I made that we can address parking issues, but really we need to address issues of homelessness. And the amendment calls for action on the issue of homelessness in the district, and I support that.
Okay.
I just emailed it.
Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mayor Little. I hear agreement around the table that it's necessary that we implement some parking restrictions in this area, and I do support this as well. I've been down to this area several times, and I've seen how we're seeing people. It's become an issue where people are entrenched down there, and I think we're at a point where it's a small enough number of people, as I've made the comments before, that we can understand everybody who's down there, what their various situations are, before the number of people grows even more. But I agree with all the comments around the table that this isn't going to solve the problem by any means. We'll be moving it around the community or over to the city of North Vancouver. And so I support the amendment tonight because I think we can really treat this as another call to action, because generally people do not choose to live in their car or in their motorhome, nor should they have to. And I think this amendment is just putting some more focus on this, continued focus to collaborate with the other levels of government to come up with some solutions. So I support the main motion here tonight, that we do need some restrictions in this area, but the recognition that there needs to be other solutions, that we're continuing to work on. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Forbes on the amendment.
I had some questions about clarifications I wanted on the report. Do I do that after the amendment?
I've got to keep you to comments on the amendment first, and then we'll see if it passes, and then we'll go back to the main or amended motion.
In favor of the amendment.
Okay. All right, Councillor Murray on the motion.
On the amendment.
Sorry, on the amendment.
Well, I mean, I think we know that there's no money for this kind of housing. I mean, if there was money, if there was a plan by the senior levels of government, wouldn't they be doing that right now? Like, why are we, we've been talking about this over and over and over again. And we just keep sending motions and hoping that somehow it's going to miraculously solve all these problems. I mean, it's just not. Like, let's just say it as it is. If it makes us feel better to pass a motion to say, let's phone the province and the feds. Well, okay, but we phoned them. They have no money. Why do we keep doing this? This is just, there's so much to deal with. And I sometimes feel like the district is the ones that have to solve all the problems. And we've got a lot of our own issues that we're dealing with. As Councillor Ma has stated, Councillor Hanson has stated this for many years. This is the responsibility of the provincial government. It was once a federal responsibility, housing. The feds walked away from it, and they've been downloading on municipalities ever since. So I just think this is just a redundant motion that we keep moving forward to make ourselves feel whole. And if we ask enough times, somehow it will happen, but it's not going to.
Okay, before I go to Mr. Stewart, I'm just going to comment that we are approaching 10:30, and so I need to put a motion out there to extend the meeting beyond 10:30, and I'll move that motion. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Back. Call the question on that. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. So just to refresh, our policy is that it's a simple majority of council to extend the meeting beyond 10:30. It's a unanimous decision to extend beyond 11. and that's unlikely. But I would highly recommend that everyone from this point forward keep your comments as brief as possible so we can reward Mr. Vasilevich for sticking through the entire meeting for his report at the end. But Mr. Stewart, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear, Your Worship. I don't disagree with Councillor Murray's comments. I think the amendment is worthy, but I don't think it's going to result in any government action, and that's kind of what we need at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, my own quick comments on it are in a similar vein, which is that when you go and talk to people behind Smoke and Bones and down that corridor, that generally are talking about 10 to 20 years that they've been entrenched in homelessness in so many of the cases. And so the production of transitional housing is not really what they're interested in. By that point, they've denied several opportunities for housing. And so there's something broken in the model that doesn't address the needs that they have. And I can't imagine, as you say there, but for the grace of God go I can't imagine what I would do in that situation if I found myself, considering having to live in level 1, level 2 housing, or living in an RV or insecure housing in a vehicle. I got to tell you, I'd probably pick the vehicle. And it's not just the state of the level 1 and level 2 housing. It's the freedom, the culture, the opportunity to build a community. It's just more attractive than the formal entry level housing. And so the model is broken. So I'm not going to support the amendment just simply because I don't think it's going to advance the issue, even though I appreciate the well-intentioned comments about it. So, Councillor Ma, are you on the amendment, or you've already spoken? Okay, go ahead.
I have similar thoughts in that, with all due respect, this is like an apple pie statement. It sounds great. We all look like jerks if we don't support it, but at the same time, it has to be meaningful. I think the staff know to do this. We don't have to micromanage them. I respect the intent, but I hope people respect. I'm not going to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pope, have you spoken on the amendment? I think you did. So she did not on it. So then Councillor Forbes, are you on the amendment? Sorry. Okay, so Councillor Pope on the amendment. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. A couple of things picking up on what people have said here. First of all, my first reaction is what? So we just give up? We just give up because we don't think we can get some money out of the feds or the province? I mean, the federal government recently, and the new federal prime minister recently announced that there's going to be all kinds of money and funding for building housing of all kinds, including transitional housing, including modular housing. So there's a lot to be pursued there by our staff in terms of possibilities. And I know that the previous housing minister, Ravi Kahlon, has often said, you bring us the land, we will bring the funding. But if we don't bring the land, it's not going to happen because it doesn't show that this is what council actually wants. So in my opinion, the amendment is here because we can do better than we have in coming up with nothing in the last year. And these people need homes. They need something that's not the street. And in response to what you were saying, that most of them don't want to go somewhere else, I can tell you the two guys that I've referred to several times tonight, the senior, 70 years old, 72, and his brother's 60, they want to get off the street. They want to get off the street as soon as possible. They do not want to be down there on Lloyd Street. They hate their life. They're living in a sedan. The seats don't even recline. I don't know how they're surviving. So we can do better. And yes, we need to advocate to the provincial and federal governments, but we also need to ensure that we speak with a strong voice in favor of supplying this kind of housing in the district.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't agree with the comments that were just said, except for the ones that were said at the beginning, which are strictly to do with the wording in the amendment. And that is that I also feel like we should, I know we feel like we do it over and over, and we do, but that doesn't mean we should give up. So that was why I said I would vote for it. If this amendment is intended to go further, as was just mentioned, then I'd have to not approve of the amendment. So are we strictly dealing with the words that are being said here about going to the federal and the provincial? We're not talking about our land or anything like that in here?
That's correct.
Okay, well then I'll pardon me?
It does identify D&B lands not previously considered. That's in there. It's at the end of the motion.
Okay. Well, I'm not against us looking at those things, but question.
Okay, on the amendment. Any other comments? First time speakers on the amendment? Okay, prepared to call the question. All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed to the amendment? Matter is defeated. We're back to the original motion. And do we still have the original speaking order? Would anybody else like to speak a first or second time to the original motion? Seeing none, prepared to call the, oh, sorry, Councillor Forbes, I thought that was from the amendment. Go ahead. Microphone, please.
I just wanted two clarifications. In the report, and the title of the report is Response to Park Large and Recreational Vehicles in the District. Why wouldn't you just use the phrase large, recreational, and all vehicles? Because how, I mean, I'm trying to understand, if you put a sign up and say you can only park for 4 hours, does that mean you're going to skip over the people who are sleeping in the cars? Like, how are we going to have a fairness here of what's happening there?
Thank you. Through your worship, the original intent of the report came about due to concerns that were raised regarding large and recreational vehicles that were parked on street. And those are also distinguished in the street and traffic bylaw in their own subsection. And so we went ahead and through that policy angle addressed large and recreational vehicles, but staff can also consider impacts to other vehicles if needed.
I'm just saying, there might be an issue of, you know, if somebody has their recreational vehicle towed, and then they turn around and say, well, so-and-so in the car has been there for 3 weeks. I mean, I'm just looking for fairness, and how would you go about implementing fairness? And if you're not looking at that right now, I'm just trying to clarify that.
I have additional comments from Mr. Milburn as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. And as mentioned, initially it was with respect to RV vehicles, but as we've heard tonight, and as we know from experience on the street, there are people parked in just average cars as well. And the parking rules set out in Appendix 1 would affect their timed parking rules. So they would affect all vehicles. And certainly when we return our further advice to council, if this motion is passed, we'll present further nuance and clarity for the rules going forward. But fairness is definitely the key, and we want to make sure that that's reflected. Thank you.
Thank you. I just needed that clarification. And one other clarification, I've walked down in that neighborhood quite a few times too. And I've also walked 3rd over to Pemberton. Was there a reason we didn't take the 3rd Street over to Pemberton? Because there was an abandoned vehicle and there was a vehicle with a flat tire, so it wasn't moving anywhere. So there were problems in that next block to Pemberton. Is there a reason we didn't go farther?
Yeah, there are large and recreational vehicles in different states kind of in the general area, but the intent of attachment 1 and the proposed parking restrictions was to provide immediate relief surrounding the tennis center as kind of the main community amenity there and responding to concerns that had been raised previously by residents and local businesses. So this was a targeted approach that was respective to the surrounding community context and land use and responding directly to council. So it was a targeted relief.
Okay, so there's nothing that would prevent us from extending it over. I realize you're doing targeted right now, but yeah, okay, thank you. I just wanted those clarifications.
Okay, prepared to call the question on the matter? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the last item of this evening's agenda, this is item 811, the outdoor sports courts optimization strategy. I will remind council that in a little over 20 minutes, the meeting will end. Mr. Stewart, your hand is raised. Is this for this item?
Yes, it is, Your Worship. I'm just going to suggest that we hear Adam's presentation and then we defer actual discussion of the item to the fall. That will give us an opportunity to contemplate the recommendations. This is something from the Recreation Commission, and I'm just suggesting that we don't have the time, in my opinion, to adequately cover this completely, but it would be helpful for council to have the presentation, and then we can discuss this in full.
That's fair, Mr. Stewart, but let's wait and see if how motivated the council is to give direction on this in a very short order, but that time will not close. So welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to do a brief introduction. We're going to roll through this as quickly as possible. The need for an outdoor sport court strategy was first identified in the district's Parks and Open Space Plan and was initiated in 2022. Strategy also responds to council motion from April 2024 to identify new sites for pickleball. The goal of the strategy is to guide us in planning and managing our outdoor courts, and that includes, of course, tennis, pickleball, basketball, lacrosse, and roller hockey. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Vasilevich. Thank you.
Thank you. So the scope of this work includes evaluating existing and future needs specifically for outdoor sports courts and identifying opportunities to optimize our existing courts as a first priority, with options for potential new locations that may be feasible as part of future park redevelopment or development. Our current inventory is now 43 tennis courts, 14 pickleball courts, 4 lacrosse boxes, and 7 basketball multi-sport courts. These are spread across 24 locations. This map shows the distribution of our sport courts right now. And these are historically developed with residential subdivision, and they were often 1 or 2 courts developed in close proximity to existing homes. We've identified some existing challenges with the current inventory. They include growing demand due to population growth, changing demographics, increased interest, aging infrastructure, ongoing budget limitations, user group compatibility issues, and site constraints that include site limitation, space limitations, noise impacts, and insufficient access to parking and washrooms. Our analysis included review and assessment of the current inventory, participation trends, supply and demand projections, and engagement with the public and sport groups. Our review of sport court supply with other municipalities in the region, like benchmarking, and all this work was done in coordination with North Vancouver Recreation and their ongoing facility needs assessment, and also the City of North Vancouver. In our engagement, we reached out to over 2,500 participants. We had an online survey with 62% of respondents were district residents, We had very specific interviews with North Shore Tennis, pickleball, minor lacrosse, and roller hockey. And we also reached out to our advisory groups. We received feedback from the Parks and Natural Environment Advisory Committee and other groups, and we incorporated that into the draft. Our engagement highlights include most were tennis and pickleball players. They were over the age of 50. And most people were generally satisfied with the condition of maintenance and repair of our existing courts. Most people arrived by car, and over half of the respondents use outdoor courts year-round. Some of the key findings: no additional tennis courts are needed. With our 43 tennis courts, we have more than the regional average. We have more than Tennis Canada's recommended amount. We also have 9 indoor tennis courts at the North Van Tennis Center. We do want to add more pickleball courts. We do have more than the regional average and have most pickleball courts on the North Shore. However, this is fewer than Pickleball BC's recommended amount. We also have an additional 17 indoor pickleball multi-sport courts at recreation centers. For lacrosse and basketball, talking to the North Shore minor lacrosse, use is down. It's historically low numbers right now. So our 4 courts meet and exceed current demand. And we think that these lacrosse boxes could be adapted to accommodate other sports. We have many basketball courts, particularly on school sites. And that showed that we do need larger size courts for adults and youth. And other key findings include increasing playtime to reduce the need for more courts. Things like exploring covered courts and lighting existing courts. So in the short term, we want to carry out ongoing sport improvements and maintenance, pursue opportunities to mitigate the noise of pickleball, and actively explore feasibility of adding new pickleball courts, such as William Griffin and Little Kate's. In the medium term, we want to explore feasibility of adding lighting. We want to add new basketball and key growth centers. And we want to continue to add pickleball courts and new park locations where feasible. Our site selection criteria is looking at a number of items from space availability, topography, proximity to homes, noise disturbance, accessibility, also addressing parking and traffic impacts, and other supporting infrastructure. If we were to apply this criteria, this image here with the highlighted green part is showing areas in the district lands that are 100 meters away from existing homes. You can see most of the space is high up on the mountainside, treed steep slopes, golf courses, for example. In the pink is also some school sites. So from this criteria, we've identified 3 possible sites that we thought we could look for additional feasibility: William Griffin, Inter River, and Parkgate. So our next steps are to maintain and improve existing courts to serve the needs of the growing population, complete the feasibility analysis for developing additional pickleball courts, and explore new amenities as part of our future park redevelopment priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be moving the staff recommendation. Is
Second.
there a second by Councillor Murray? Okay, just my own comments on this. I know I have no interest in seeing, tennis space traded for pickleball space or others. We do have to keep open to the possibility that demands shift in different areas. I do happen to think there's an opportunity to expand racket sport opportunities, pickleball, potentially indoor tennis. And one of the spaces I think that we need to look to is gravel fields. We have 54 sports fields in the district entirely between our properties and school district properties. And this last year, we found out from our largest soccer user in the district of North Vancouver that they no longer want to use gravel fields. They want to be entirely on artificial turf fields, which means we're all of a sudden in a situation where we're going to have quite a lot of surplus gravel fields. Even if the other associations decide that they want to continue using gravel, it still would put us in a significant surplus situation for gravel field space. And so those places are already leveled, they already have parking, they already have trails and access from different spaces around them. So I think there is an opportunity to look at potential surplus gravel field sites as a potential for future racket sport expansion. I think that's all I'm going to say about this at this time, but this is the beginning of further conversations about outdoor sport usage in our community going forward. I'll be supportive of the recommendation. Seconder was Councillor Mearing.
Yeah, I'll support the recommendation too. Thank you for the presentation. I agree with the mayor in regards to how things shift and how things change over time. I'm glad we're looking at maintaining our existing courts and putting some money in them to get longer play on those. I do think that we have to start looking beyond the boundaries of the municipality though, and we have to start talking to, I mean, obviously we partner with the North Vancouver City in regards to the Rec Commission, but we have our neighbors West Vancouver too. And there's been a number of interested groups in regards to outdoor activities that I've phoned West Vancouver. I've phoned my colleagues on council there. I've spoken to them to say, you know, are there opportunities for you to consider some needs that we can't fulfill in the district? Can you fulfill them in West Van? And they've been happy to look into it, work with their parks department. Two are actually moving forward. And I think that's, you know, we talk about North Shore. We need to also partner with, you know, our neighbors, because we do a lot for them. They can do a lot for us, and it can be an expanded, you know, system across the North Shore. So, you know, when we talk about expansion, we also have to understand that limited budget that we're facing with all sorts of different things in the project prioritization, and, you know, what we must do, what would be nice to do, and what we'd like to do. I can't remember the exact term he used, but it's something like that. So, you know, these discussions are going to take place during our budget discussion in regards to expansion, but certainly maintaining and having pickleball and tennis coming forward tonight and presenting and agreeing with this report. Good work. Good work, Parks Department. Good work, tennis and pickleball. I like it when we're friends.
Must, should, nice to do.
Oh yeah, must, should, nice.
There you go. Councillor Pope, your comments, please.
Thanks very much for this report. I'm glad it's finally here, but I really don't understand why it took so long to get here. This strategy was started 2 years ago, launched engagement, and we had the result of the engagement and consultations with stakeholders and conclusions and recommendations over 1 year ago. And so this report details what the draft report actually told us a year ago. So my question, and I addressed the CAO on this one, is why did this take so long? And do you think this timeline was acceptable?
Mr. Stewart.
I'll respond directly. This is a product from the Recreation Commission, not a product of the district. So the process under which they went to vet that, get it approved by the Recreation Commission, I'm not going to comment on, but I do not accept responsibility for how long this took. This was a Recreation Commission report, and we have tried to provide it as quickly as we can once we received it from the Recreation Commission.
Thank you.
A year ago, council also endorsed my motion asking staff to report back on where to increase pickleball courts. And one of the key findings from the draft a year ago was that demand for pickleball is surging and more courts were needed. Yet every step of the way, barriers were put up that stopped any increase from happening. And now there's actually been a reduction in courts. And your numbers, I would actually disagree with about the number of pickleball courts. We have one less at Murdo Fraser, plus earlier closing times that seriously impact younger players who work and can't get there till 5 or 6, and which is in effect a reduction in the number of courts. Plus, we knew a year ago that Little Kate's had enough room to add 2 more courts. Finally, after a lot of meetings and work and pressure from myself and the mayor and Councillor Ma, Parks announced last week that 2 more courts will finally be added at Little Cates. But now 2 years later, there's even more demand. This weekend, I was at the Canadian National Championships for pickleball in Burnaby. All the players except for one from Western Canada and across the United States were in their 20s. And the one was under 40. So we know that the sport is surging among young people. And the North Shore Pickleball Club gave lessons, free lessons by volunteers to over 5,000 students in the last year. But again, young people, nowhere to play for them after work. So the North Shore Pickleball Club must be involved in planning going forward. Mistakes are being made. The noise mitigation measures for Little Cates that are apparently currently underway. We know from recent current sound research that putting up sound barriers moves the sound higher. It moves the sound higher. It may block a little less this way, but it moves it into homes and neighborhoods that are up above. So it makes no sense to anyone who plays, and especially to the North Shore Pickleball Club, that we would waste taxpayers' money investing in sound barriers at Little Cates where there actually haven't been any complaints. And the final thing I'd like to say is, why is there no mention of additional skateboard parks or disc golf courses or possibilities for those in the future? Because we've heard extensively from those user groups that they want that too.
Mr. Vasilevich?
Through your worship, the sports court strategy was specific to hard court surfaces. So lacrosse courts, roller hockey, basketball, tennis, and pickleball.
Skateboard.
Those were not included.
Out of scope.
Out of scope.
Because they don't have a hard surface, but skateboarders do have a hard surface.
It was out of scope for the report, and that's the answer, unfortunately, but yeah.
Okay, so we need to create a new motion to have a new report to include some different types of services for skateboards and disc golf. It's just unbelievable. Really, it's just unbelievable. Those are my comments.
Council, I'm going to take the unusual step after the last speaker to invoke closure and call the question on the matter, just because of the extraordinary circumstance where it would be punted for 6 weeks. So, Councillor Ma, you're the last speaker, and then we're going to call the question on the matter.
Man, I got to cover everything then. Okay. First, thank you. I'll just leave it at that. And I respect the answer that you gave, Councillor Pope, but I do have a comment also about the scope. The strategy for sports that require courts is required, but to me, it's also about planning limited park space that's optimized for all different groups. There's going to be trade-offs, compromises. There's other uses within a park where the courts are, like skateboarding, dog parks, water parks, playground equipment. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a request to put in some playground equipment at Kirkstone, and they're trying to fit it in. So we also need, within our park space, there's some green space for kids to run around or to put on a concert. If anyone that went to the Antonio La Rosa concert last time, a couple of weeks ago at Seylynn Park, you would have seen how great that facility is used. My point is this: it's great to have a strategy for the courts, but the courts are within a park and we got to plan around that. So that's just a comment. I'll keep this short. The report mentions there's a fleeting reference to covered facility, and I think it was by the pickleball club. And this was interesting. So I did a quick research, not comprehensive. There are some covered outdoor sport facilities in the Lower Mainland. I found one in Delta that was built in 2022, and then Burnaby has 2 such facilities. One just recently completed in 2024 in North Burnaby, where my mom lives. Now, I get it, cost is an issue. The Delta one was probably around $2 million. The second one in Burnaby, depending on the quality and the scope, I think was close to about 8 million. I didn't get a final number, but just for context, the amount of rain in Delta is about 40 millimeters per year, and they have a covered facility, partly for sun too. We got 60 times that rain in the North Shore. I'm just wondering, should we, the next time we look at this again, should we be looking at potentially covered outdoor facilities? I'm not looking for something as great as a tennis center, but putting a cover over some of the courts so we can have utilization more around the whole year. And I am sensitive that there's a cost, but if you can come back with some scope so we understand if we want this, this is what it's going to cost. So like I said, good report, and I guess we'll move forward. And if we go forward with the covered facility, I think that also addresses potential climate change issues, because I think that the days of us playing outdoors at 2 o'clock are going to be numbered, because this is so, last couple of weeks, it just gets so hot that you're not out there. But thank you, Adam.
I have some additional comments from Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, well, I appreciate Councillor Pope's comments. The capacity and resources that we have to expand parks is not limitless. And we have to balance continually all the different competing interests on that, whether it's pickleball or tennis or something else. And so I welcome the opportunity to have a further discussion with council on this, but I want to be really clear. We don't have a lot more capacity, and we already have a lot of parks. We don't have a lot more capacity to expand those. So we have to be very strategic as to what we do or we don't do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call the question on the matter. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your report this evening.
Thank you.
Council, we've completed the business of this evening's meeting. I'll accept adjournment. Thank you, Councillor Muri. So to the staff who prepared our reports, we really appreciate your work tonight. And to council for your deliberations, appreciate your work tonight. And to the members of the public who stuck through us, thank you for participating. Everybody, this does represent the summer break for the council, which means while our jobs still continue, we just don't have any public meetings for the next 5 weeks. And so I want to wish everybody a great summer break. I hope you come back healthy and refreshed in the fall. I look forward to working with you again. Thank you.